Chapter 47:22. For many gods, especially those from the era of the gods, the Lingxiao Palace contained their memories, allowing them to feel the feeling of the era of the gods. Therefore, whenever they were free, they would gather in the city and reminisce about the past. Therefore, countless powerful gods from the era of the gods had gathered in this city. My lord, Lei Gong Linling is probably coming, and Emperor Dong Hua has been waiting for a long time. At this moment, in a restaurant in the Lingxiao Palace, a man in armor cupped his hands and bowed. There was a table in front of him, and a middle-aged man with sharp eyebrows and bright eyes was sitting there. This person was drinking lightly, but his every move seemed to carry the laws of the universe with it. It was very powerful. Behind him, the sun and moon were majestic, protecting the ancestors. He was one of the 5 emperors, Great Emperor Xuanxu. Legend had it that Great Emperor Xuanxu's mother saw the Alcade star and comprehended the laws of the universe, giving birth to Xuanxu. Therefore, Xuanxu was born with a golden spoon in his mouth and created a civilization in the ancient era. Although he couldn't be compared to seniors like the Yellow Emperor, he still had some outstanding merit. This Linling is really capable. He offended Emperor Shun and Emperor Yao, and he still dares to stay in the Dao realm. The middle-aged man took a sip of wine and said calmly, "It's said that he has the 10 great chaos divine artifacts, and there are people from the Donghuang clan in the tomb with the Donghuang bell. That's why Emperor Yao is targeting him and wants to get those 2 treasures." The man said, "Yes." Great Emperor Xuanxu nodded. He has offended 2 great emperors in the Dao realm, so he can't do anything. Coupled with Emperor Donghua, he will definitely suffer. This is also our chance. My lord, what do you mean? The man's eyes flashed. That's right, I want to take him in as my tomb. Great Emperor Xuanxu revealed a wise look. This Linling is quite capable. If he grows up, his strength will definitely be extraordinary. Helping him now is like giving charcoal in the snow. He will definitely be grateful to me. My lord, you are indeed thoughtful. The man nodded his head in admiration. I heard that this Linling has offended the 3 divine gates of the White Mountain. Now, he is surrounded by enemies everywhere. He can't even protect himself. If the great emperor is willing to step in, he will definitely be grateful to limitless and loyally work for you. If you want to obtain a person, you must first obtain his heart. No matter how ambitious this Linling is, he is still beneath me. Great Emperor Xuanxu smiled and said, "Now, let's just wait for Linling to be defeated." Alright, what's the strength of this Linling? It is rumored that he is an early-stage god. The man said, Emperor Donghua is a late-stage mid-god. Linling won't be able to defeat him. Even if he is a mid-stage mid-god, he is still no match for Emperor Donghua. Let's just wait for the show to start. Remember, when Linling is in danger, you must help him and bring him to me. Emperor Xuanxu instructed. The man immediately accepted the order and left. While they were conversing, in Firmament City, a man in embroidered clothes with endless divine light appeared on the Immortal Slaying platform. The Immortal Slaying platform was the highest place in the entire Firmament City. Moreover, it had an extraordinary origin. Back then, it was the place where the Heavenly Emperor killed demons from all over. On the Immortal Slaying platform, countless gods and demons had been executed by the Heavenly Emperor. Now that the Heavenly Emperor was no longer around, the Immortal Slaying platform had become a beautiful scenery. However, because too many gods and demons had been killed, this place had become a taboo. Ordinary gods did not dare to come here. Once someone arrived on the Immortal Slaying platform, it would definitely attract the attention of countless people. Who is that? Doesn't he know that the Immortal Slaying platform is not a place that one can enter casually? I think it is Emperor Donghua. Emperor Donghua, one of the emperors back then. He is very powerful and once guarded the east of the divine realm. What is he doing here? I heard that he wants to fight someone. In the Firmament Palace, gods from all over were discussing. Interesting. I think a god or demon is going to fall. Moreover, in some corners of the city, extremely famous demon kings and demon emperors from back then were also sitting there, watching this scene with a smile. I am Emperor Donghua. I have come here today to fight someone and defeat that person in front of all the gods of this era. At this moment, Emperor Donghua's voice sounded like a brilliant heavenly might. Emperor Donghua, who are you going to fight and cause such a commotion? The other party must have a powerful background. Someone asked curiously. Emperor Donghua looked down at all the gods in the city, taking in everyone's expressions. At this moment, he actually had the feeling that he was leading the era and dominating the gods. After all, even though he, Imperial Monarch Donghua, was extremely famous all those years ago, but unfortunately, he was only slightly famous during the past few eras. Moreover, because of the different eras, he could only dominate one area in one era. However, after the arrival of the will of the world, the gods had fallen and then reincarnated, causing the great gods of several eras to gather. This also gave him an even bigger stage. A stage that allowed him to laugh proudly for several eras. Lei Gong Linling. Emperor Donghua said indifferently, his voice spreading throughout the city. Lei Gong Linling? Who is that? Some people didn't know Linling, while others had vaguely heard of this name. This person wasn't a famous god back then. In fact, he could even be said to be unknown. However, after the great calamity of the will of the world, the famous gods back then all fell. They either reincarnated or inherited the inheritance of their previous lives. However, it is undeniable that they are not as powerful as they were back then. But this Linling's, he was unknown back then, but now he is famous. Because he offended Emperor Shun, Emperor Yao, and the three great divine sects of White Mountain. Just based on this, he is a distinguished figure. Emperor Donghua said indifferently, describing Linling as extremely powerful. Because of this, the opponents he challenged would be of value, and people would admire him even more. This person is so ferocious. Sure enough, the gods were shocked. Challenging two great emperors and the three great divine sects of White Mountain at the same time, this was no small character. It seems like Emperor Donghua's opponent is also powerful. However, no matter how powerful he is, can he be compared to Emperor Donghua? I think he won't dare to come. After all, now that everyone in the city knows his name, Emperor Shun and Emperor Yao will come to kill him, he won't dare to come. A voice sounded, and suddenly the entire city fell silent. After offending two great emperors, it would be strange if this Lei Gong Linling dared to come. Emperor Donghua also frowned. He was only thinking about how to make this battle a sensation and how to kill Linling to wash away the humiliation in the abyss. He had neglected this point. Damn it, it seems like my efforts were in vain. This immortal slaying stage was also wasted. Emperor Donghua cursed silently. Emperor Donghua, I'm here. However, at this moment, a calm voice suddenly sounded in the distance. Many people appeared in the distance. They stepped on the clouds and arrived in a mighty manner. The person in the lead was none other than Linling. Bang bang bang. Figures landed one after another. Linling took a big step and stepped onto the immortal slaying stage. Emperor Donghua, I, Linling, am here to challenge you. Chapter 47-23. Emperor Donghua, I'm here to challenge you. Yes. His ethereal voice spread all over the place as if he had arrived at the peak of the era. In Lingxiao City, gods from various eras, whether they were famous or not, all looked at the young man. They only knew that Linling was a little famous. However, they didn't expect that this god who had appeared out of nowhere would be so arrogant and actually dare to fight. Lei Gong Linling, why is he here? Isn't he on the other side of the god's fall void? Damn it, this kid is like a rat. One moment he's here, the next moment he's there. No one can track him at all. Forget about him. Inform the three divine sects of White Mountain immediately. In a corner of the city, the gods from the three divine sects of White Mountain were discussing with sneers. Linling dared to appear here. Since he was here, he shouldn't think about leaving. The same thing happened on the other side. For example, the gods under the tombs of Emperor Shun and Emperor Yao were also discussing. Oh my god, didn't Sound Nest Elder go to catch them? Why is this guy here? I think he ran fast. Sound Nest Elder and the others missed. Inform Emperor Yao immediately. This Lin Ling is quite lucky to be able to escape from Sound Nest Elder. He's quite capable. However, he shouldn't have come here. The entire Lingxiao city seemed to have been stirred up by Lin Ling. The incomparably famous demon gods and demon emperors were now licking their lips as if they had found a good tomb and wanted to recruit him for their own use. Lei Gong Lin Ling, you really came. Looking at the immortal slaying platform again, Emperor Dong Hua looked coldly at Lin Ling and suddenly laughed. I must be dreaming. You really came. Why wouldn't I come? Lin Ling looked at Emperor Dong Hua indifferently, his eyes calm. Don't you know that I, the Laughing Buddha, and the others have long wanted to settle the score with you? Emperor Dong Hua's laughter grew louder and louder. He was also venting his frustrations from the trip to the abyss. In his opinion, if it weren't for the great Yin-Yang primordial mystery dragon and the Yellow Emperor, Lin Ling wouldn't have been worth a fart. Lei Gong Lin Ling, you simply don't understand the vastness of this era. You come from a tiny place, how could you understand the grandeur of the God realm? Emperor Dong Hua stopped laughing. His expression was full of disdain. His chin was also raised high. Beneath the immortal slaying platform, the gods who had traveled together with him in the abyss were also furious and cold. That day in the abyss, they didn't obtain anything. Instead, many people died. All of this was thanks to this Lin Ling. Emperor Dong Hua, kill him. That's right. The difference in strength between you and him is so great. You should be able to control his soul and use it to slay immortals and gods. The pitiful ones are those who came with Lin Ling. They're going to suffer as well. The Laughing Buddha and the others spoke one after another. It was as if a senior was teaching a junior a lesson. The people in Lei Gong's palace stood quietly in the distance. They didn't expect these gods to be so despicable. As the saying went, one shouldn't harm one's family. They were going to suffer as well. Unfortunately, these people's ideas were good, but they obviously couldn't be realized. Because Lin Ling wasn't as simple as he looked. Emperor Dong Hua, you sent me a letter of challenge because of this? On the immortal slaying platform, Lin Ling quietly listened to Emperor Dong Hua's words and then asked with a frown. Previously, he had been curious as to why Emperor Dong Hua had sent him a letter of challenge. What disappointed him now was that it was because of the Millennium Promise. This was making a mountain out of a molehill. Is this a small matter? Emperor Dong Hua also didn't expect Lin Ling to look so disappointed. Could it be that this Lin Ling was waiting for something? But this was too much of a disregard. Alright, cut the crap. Don't use the tone of a senior to talk to me. To be honest, your tone makes me very uncomfortable. Without waiting for Emperor Dong Hua to speak, Lin Ling was already prepared to attack. Using the tone of a senior to teach Lin Ling a lesson. Of course, he could do that. But the prerequisite was that Emperor Dong Hua had to have the strength of a senior. To be honest, apart from being unknown during the era of the gods in his previous life, Lin Ling surpassed Emperor Dong Hua in everything else. In terms of the ancient gods he had seen and in terms of familiarity with the universe, Emperor Dong Hua couldn't compare to him. Rumble. Without any nonsense, Lin Ling punched out. You actually dare to attack me first. Emperor Dong Hua was extremely surprised. His divine essence erupted to resist Lin Ling's divine power. Rumble. The two of them fought fiercely on the immortal slaying platform, divine light filling the sky. Emperor Dong Hua was indeed a late-stage midgod. His divine power was extremely powerful, but he was still weaker than Yin Chao Elder. However, he was a little surprised when he fought Lin Ling. This was because when he was in the abyss, Lin Ling was only an early-stage midgod. Now, he had reached mid-stage midgod and was an existence that couldn't be underestimated. It wasn't impossible for him to defeat one or two late-stage midgods if he went all out. Unfortunately, he could only defeat one or two, and that didn't include Emperor Dong Hua. This Lin Ling is not simple. He actually broke through in such a short period of time. You have to know that for a god to break through, it takes 100,000 years. However, this shows how precious Xian Qi is. This guy must have used Xian Qi to break through. Damn it, these treasures originally belonged to me. Emperor Dong Hua thought as he fought, and he became even angrier. In fact, he didn't know that the xianqi Lin Ling obtained at the bottom of the abyss was useless now. It was still hidden in his body. That guy broke through. It's probably primordial xianqi. Damn it, we always get a lot of xianqi during the 1,000-year agreement, but this time, we returned empty-handed. It's all because of that kid. Yes, seeing him break through while we return empty-handed, I'm very unhappy. Below the immortal slaying platform, the laughing Buddha and the others were also livid. At this moment, in a restaurant in Firmament City, Emperor Zhuanshu was still drinking wine with his eyes closed as though he had a card up his sleeve. My lord, this Lin Ling and Emperor Donghua are locked in battle, and it said that he broke through. A man cupped his hands and bowed. He's quite capable, but this makes me even more determined to subdue him. Don't worry, I reckon Emperor Donghua hasn't gone all out yet. After all, there's an insurmountable gap between a mid-stage mid-god and a late-stage mid-god. That Lin Ling can't win. Emperor Zhuanshu smiled, very satisfied with Lin Ling's cultivation progress. He said calmly, "Go, pay attention to the immortal slaying platform. You must save Lin Ling before Emperor Donghua kills Lin Ling. You can't do it a moment earlier or later. You should know this." "I know." The man revealed a confident smile. Chapter 47-24. However, this man was very experienced because he had already subdued many ancient gods for Emperor Zhuanshu. I estimate that in less than an hour, the outcome of the battle will be decided. Lin Ling should be feeling the pressure by now. The man disappeared from the restaurant. Looking at the immortal slaying platform again, Lin Ling had already fought with Emperor Donghua for 3 hours, which shocked the gods of Firmament City. This Lei Gong Lin Ling has not lost after so long. Yes, he is considered an extremely powerful mid-stage mid-god. No wonder Emperor Donghua values him so much. Do you think Lin Ling will turn the tables? The sound of discussion resounded throughout the entire city. Suddenly, a loud laugh was heard. The laughing Buddha looked up to the sky and laughed, his eyes filled with disdain. "You don't understand." The calm voice floated out again. The laughing Buddha looked at the gods with contempt, as though mocking their ignorance. "Do you think that Lin Ling can last 3 hours in the hands of Emperor Donghua because Lin Ling is very strong? In reality, this is just Emperor Donghua's cat-and-mouse game. Emperor Donghua only needs one move to defeat Lin Ling. Because Lin Ling ruined our plans, letting him die like this would be letting him off easy. Therefore, Emperor Donghua gave Lin Ling hope and let Lin Ling be happy for a while before forcefully killing this hope." The laughing Buddha continued, "Think about it. When a person sees the hope of surviving and feels that he can defeat a late-stage mid-god, his heart will surge with excitement. But reality will always give him a vicious slap in the face, smashing him into the abyss. At that time, his body will suffer a beating. The blow will never be as great as the blow to his heart. So that's how it is. I've said it before. How can a mid-stage mid-god fight against a late-stage mid-god? In several eras, there have been very few gods with such strength. It's not easy to see one. It seems that we have been overthinking." All the gods nodded in understanding, but they also revealed gloating smiles. When Lin Ling found out that Emperor Donghua only needed one move to defeat him, who knew how he would feel? He would probably go crazy. One move. This was everyone's evaluation of Lin Ling. Lin Ling, after reaching mid-stage mid-god, your strength has indeed improved tremendously. You are actually able to resist me for so long. Aren't you proud? At this moment, Emperor Donghua's voice came from the immortal slaying platform. However, Lin Ling remained silent. Unfortunately, you are too optimistic. Reality is reality, and it will give you a fierce slap. Emperor Donghua didn't intend to hide his strength anymore. Let me tell you, I only used 50% of my strength before, but you already used your full strength. If I used my full strength, you wouldn't be able to withstand a single strike from me. I'm toying with you like a mouse. Lin Ling remained silent. Most importantly, he disdained to speak. Next, I will show you my full strength. I will defeat you in one move. Emperor Donghua roared, and a terrifying power of divinity erupted, reaching 50 million. Boom! A punch suddenly descended, as if a god's fist was about to destroy the world. Very quickly, and the power was extremely terrifying. The entire immortal slaying platform shook. If not for the fact that this was the execution ground where the celestial the arch killed gods and demons, it would have collapsed long ago. However, Lin Ling's fist also collided with his. The two fists collided, and Lin Ling staggered back. His dantian was churning, but he wasn't injured. What? Emperor Donghua's eyes narrowed. His punch contained 50 million points of divinity, but it didn't seriously injure Lin Ling. Lin Ling could still stand? His expression instantly turned ferocious. It was as if he had lost all his face. Lin Ling shook his head. The reason why he was still waiting was that he felt that Emperor Donghua's challenge to him was not that simple. Therefore, he wanted to see what was hidden in it. However, he had been fighting for so long, and nothing else seemed to have happened. Was he overthinking? Forget it, it was time to end it. Lin Ling, it seems like I've underestimated you. However, you risked your life to block my punch. You've probably reached your limit. Next, I won't give you another chance. I'm going to heavily injure you and then prevent the Tao state from protecting you. After you're heavily injured, I'll slowly torture your soul to death. Emperor Donghua's expression became even more ferocious. This time, he was finally serious. Divine essence burned like flames on his body. The divine fetus talent had descended. It was the moon of Donghua. This also caused his power of divinity to soar instantly. An 8th grade divine fetus. I estimate that his power of divinity has reached 50 million points. How terrifying! Are you blind? The previous punch was 50 million points. Now, it has probably reached 60 million. Looking at Emperor Donghua's soaring aura on the immortal slaying platform, the gods were shocked. Emperor Donghua was one of the reincarnated gods with the fastest cultivation speed. He was very strong back then, and he was still very strong now. And 60 million points of power of divinity was obviously not something a mid-stage mid-god could withstand. After all, ordinary mid-stage mid-gods only had 1,000 points of power of divinity at most. The powerful ones only had 2,000. However, when 2,000 and 6,000 clashed, the difference was 3 times. Lin Ling, you'll lose. Emperor Donghua's entire body seemed to be burning. This was the moonlight flame. This also caused countless moons to spurt out from his body and splash in all directions. In the eyes of others, it was as if the moons of the thousands of worlds in the universe had arrived. It was very dazzling, so dazzling that one could not see his figure clearly. This was also the power of Emperor Donghua's divine fetus. Apart from special divine abilities, even soul power could not find Emperor Donghua's figure in the moon. In fact, Lin Ling also could not detect it. This made him secretly surprised. Emperor Donghua's talent was not bad. Then, Lin Ling sensed that danger was approaching. He finally shook his head. 3rd stage. Previously, he did not even use innate talent fusion. He relied on his own body to fight Emperor Donghua. And this was only 30% of Lin Ling's strength. Now, he had used 80%. Emperor Donghua had 60 million points of power of divinity. Unfortunately, Lin Ling only had 5,000. Boom. Without using any divine abilities, Lin Ling also punched out. The two fists collided under the dazzling moonlight. Bang, bang. At this moment, the immortal slaying platform cracked open. Countless divine blood and demonic bones appeared and then reformed. It turned out that the immortal slaying platform was built with divine blood and demonic bones. No wonder it could be passed down for so long. Boom. The entire firmament city seemed to be slapped down by a powerful palm. That aura also raised the dust in the streets and alleys into the sky. I didn't expect Emperor Donghua to be serious. I hope Mu Lin is still in time. Chapter 47-25. Oh no, I was too slow. Emperor Zhuanshu's subordinate frowned. The battle had changed too quickly, causing him to be unable to react in time. Of course, he did not expect Lin Ling to be able to block Emperor Donghua's punch. Otherwise, there would not be such a scene today. What terrifying strength! Emperor Donghua is indeed powerful when he's serious. That Lin Ling was probably seriously injured by that punch. He's probably being taken away by the Dao Realm protection. People were also whispering, the Dao Realm protection can't take him away. Emperor Donghua can only control his strength and will only seriously injure Lin Ling. He won't kill him. In that case, the Dao Realm protection won't appear. Just wait, when those moons disperse, you'll be able to see the scene of Emperor Donghua trampling on Lin Ling. The laughing Buddha laughed and said with incomparable confidence, "Sush." At that moment, a scream suddenly sounded. Then, a figure fell from the sky. Bang! After crashing to the ground, he spat out silver blood as if he was spitting out moons. Everyone focused their eyes and instantly, the entire city fell silent. Because the person who fell from the immortal slaying platform was actually Emperor Donghua. This must be a dream. The full-powered attack of a late-stage mid-god was actually knocked off the immortal slaying platform by a mid-stage mid-god? Wasn't it said that when Emperor Donghua was serious, Lin Ling would not be able to block a single move? At that moment, everyone was silent. There were all kinds of complicated expressions on their faces. Some were shocked. Some were mocking. Even more unbelievable. Without a doubt, the laughing Buddha and the others were the most unbelievable. One had to know that when they were in the abyss, Lin Ling was no match for them at all. Even Goddess Yu Ying's maidservant dared to mock Lin Ling. But now, the one who was knocked off the immortal slaying platform was Emperor Donghua. The gap between them was simply too great. This also in disbelief was the fact that he wanted to help in Emperor Zhuanshu's tomb. He had calculated the time and time to save Lin Ling at the critical moment. However, he did not expect that the one who was defeated was actually Emperor Donghua. As a result, his plan was foiled. Ironically, Great Emperor Zhuanshu had been confident that he would be able to subdue Lin Ling. But now, he was at a loss for what to do. This Lin Ling is so strong? Didn't you say that in Emperor Shun's territory, even mid-stage mid-gods could hunt him down? That's just a rumor. Didn't you see it? Now, even the late-stage mid-god Emperor Donghua has been defeated. No wonder Emperor Shun had to come personally. It turns out that this kid really can't afford to come. After the initial shock, voices continued to float out. As for the deities from Emperor Yao, their expressions changed drastically. Not good. I just received news that Sound Nest Old Man and the others did not return and have all disappeared. He didn't disappear. I think he's dead. Didn't you see him? Even Emperor Donghua is no match for him. Moreover, this Lin Ling doesn't seem to be using his full strength at all. At this moment, High Firmament City was in turmoil because of Lin Ling. The name Lin Ling quietly rose in this era. Looking at the immortal slaying platform again, a man in a gray robe slowly flew down and then stepped on Emperor Donghua's body, preventing him from standing up. His eyes looked down at Emperor Donghua with extreme calmness. There was no excitement at all, as if everything was very normal. This gaze made Emperor Donghua realize that his heart was on the verge of breaking down at this moment. He even suspected that this was the Lin Ling he saw at the bottom of the abyss. Otherwise, why would the gap be so huge? Are you really just purely challenging me to a battle? Stepping on Emperor Donghua, Lin Ling asked indifferently. Lei Gong Lin Ling, kill me if you can. If you can't, I'll definitely come back and kill you one day. Emperor Donghua thought that Lin Ling was trampling on his dignity. However, he was not afraid because he had the protection of the Dao realm. He could leave at any time. What embarrassed him was that today was supposed to be his moment of glory, but he was being stepped on. This was his greatest humiliation after becoming a god. Back then, he dominated the east of the divine world. Not to mention being stepped on, no one even dared to scold him. But now, how could he face anyone? He had to avenge this grudge. Do you really think I can't kill you? In fact, I haven't even used my full strength against you. Lin Ling said indifferently. Emperor Donghua's pupils constricted, and he was humiliated beyond recognition. A mid-stage mid-level god fighting a late-stage mid-level god like him actually didn't use his full strength. Instead, a late-stage mid-level god went all out. At this moment, he suddenly felt that inviting Lin Ling to a duel was such a stupid move. Kill me if you can. Emperor Donghua was a little flustered as he roared angrily. Hearing this, Lin Ling shook his head. He didn't intend to wait any longer. Perhaps he was overthinking. This was a very ordinary battle between gods. He activated the 3 extreme universe break. As soon as this soul power was released, a terrifying wave of energy pressed down and landed on Emperor Donghua's soul, causing it to tremble. The most terrifying thing was that he clearly didn't sense any life and death danger, but the depths of his soul felt that something was wrong. He also instantly knew that Lin Ling had the strength to kill him. Emperor Donghua couldn't speak properly. At this moment, he panicked. In fact, as soon as the 3 extreme universe break was released, the souls of the gods near Lin Ling were all affected. Subconsciously, they all took a step back, and their faces turned pale. They all had an illusion that Lin Ling could kill Emperor Donghua, and even the protection of the Dao realm was useless. Have mercy! At this moment, a loud shout finally rang out. A tall and sturdy old man led a large number of deities into the city in a grandiose manner. This old man's strength was very strong and unfathomable. He was a high-level god. And the gods he brought with him were all late-stage mid-gods. Powerful. That was the only word to describe them. This also made Lin Ling turn his head and frown. Could it be that this person was luring him out? He had always felt that it was impossible for Emperor Donghua to find him by himself, much less invite him to fight. There must be something hidden. Now, a high-level god had appeared. It seemed that this matter was related to him. I'm Emperor Changsheng. Release Emperor Donghua immediately and hand over the Quafu's sun-chasing boots. I'll spare your worthless life. The old man stopped in his tracks and looked at Lin Ling in an imposing manner. Emperor Changsheng. The moment this name was mentioned, the entire city was in an uproar. This was also an emperor of an era. However, he was extremely famous in the ancient era and was even more terrifying than Emperor Donghua. It was said that this person had even obtained a wisp of the true essence of the eternal great Tao, so he had an immortal body. Chapter 47-26. Eternal Emperor, he's actually become a high god. That's right. I heard that he came from the Tao Pagoda. Other than the 5 emperors, he doesn't give face to anyone in the Tao realm. That's right. That's right. I saw him fight Emperor Shun. He doesn't even fear the Emperor Shun. That's right. Reverence could be heard in Firmament City. Just the title of a high god was enough to make the gods give face. Lei Gong Lin Ling, let him go. That's right. Some late-stage mid-gods around Eternal Monarch sneered coldly. Lin Ling also frowned as he looked at Emperor Changsheng. Could this be the person behind Emperor Donghua? Lin Ling, let me go. At this time, Emperor Donghua also sneered. Although you have some strength, it's not enough in the Tao realm. There are countless gods in the Tao realm who are stronger than you. Do you know the battle record of Emperor Changsheng? He even dared to fight Emperor Shun. In all of the Tao realm, there are only 3 people who Emperor Longevity Immortal fears: the Yellow Emperor, Emperor Yao, and Emperor Jun. Any other god would have to give him some face. Do you really think you can fight him? Many gods' expressions changed when they heard this. Just as they had guessed, the Longevity Immortal Emperor's background was indeed terrifying. Last time, I heard that Emperor Changsheng and Emperor Yao clashed once or twice, but their enmity wasn't that great. That's why Emperor Yao ignored Emperor Changsheng. Of course, if it was someone else, Emperor Yao wouldn't have let it go so easily. Even Emperor Yao has to give face to Emperor Changsheng. That's right. I heard that Emperor Changsheng is only afraid of one person, and that person is the oldest god. Who? Emperor Changsheng is so arrogant that he's afraid of others? The oldest of the 5 emperors, the Yellow Emperor. Sounds of discussion rose and fell one after another. When the Yellow Emperor was mentioned, the entire Firmament Palace fell silent. The Yellow Emperor was the most mysterious of the 5 emperors. Very few people knew of him. They had only heard of his name. The oldest Yellow Emperor is indeed terrifying. A god from the ancient era shook his head. Although he came from the ancient era, he had never seen the real Yellow Emperor. Release him and hand over the Quafu's sun-chasing boots. Another god from Emperor Changsheng's side spoke up. It's impossible to let him go, not in this lifetime. Lin Ling looked up and said lightly, "You're courting death." The god glanced at Emperor Changsheng, who narrowed his eyes and frowned. He immediately understood what was going on. He took a step forward and disappeared on the spot. In midair, he suddenly turned into an ancient mountain and slammed toward Lin Ling. This was Mount Wu. The shamans were also the most ancient race of the human race. In ancient times, there were many demons and demons. Some human leaders created races to unite the human race. Among them, the most famous was the shaman race. This was also the race with the most shamans. For example, the 12 grand shamans were from the shaman tribe. "You're courting death." Lin Ling sneered and shook his head. He had finally activated the 3 extremes of the universe. Originally, he didn't have the time to deal with Emperor Changsheng's people. However, that god actually attacked him. Didn't anyone tell him that it was dangerous to get close to Lin Ling? The cosmic ray appeared and sealed the universe. Emperor Donghua's soul trembled again and his eyes widened. Wu Shan, who was charging over, also felt a terrifying pressure at this moment. "Not good," Wu Shan said in human language and wanted to retreat, but he was too late. Swoosh! The cosmic ray slashed past. Emperor Donghua stopped moving, and so did Wu Shan. The souls of these 2 late-stage mid-gods were destroyed. They were completely dead. Silence. The entire city was silent. When Lin Ling activated this technique, many gods felt the pressure. However, they didn't expect this technique to be so powerful. 2 late-stage mid-gods had actually been killed in an instant. Moreover, the protection of the Tao realm was useless. Moreover, the one who did it was only a mid-stage mid-god. What technique is this? After a moment of silence, Emperor Changsheng spoke in a low voice. Clearly, he was also surprised. A technique to kill dogs. Lin Ling looked at him without fear. Although Emperor Changsheng was very strong, things had already happened. He just had to face it calmly. He couldn't let Emperor Donghua go just because of Emperor Changsheng. This was also not in line with Lin Ling's character. Moreover, although Emperor Changsheng was strong, Lin Ling was still confident that he could escape unscathed. The only thing he was worried about was Lei Gong's palace. "It seems that you are hiding a secret that even I don't know about," the longevity immortal emperor said calmly, his eyes burning with passion. The Quafu's sun-chasing boots was a treasure that he had his eyes on. However, he didn't expect Lin Ling to have other treasures on him. "Hand over all your treasures and kill yourself. If you never step into the Tao realm, I will spare your life." Emperor Changsheng couldn't help but lick his lips. The light of ambition in his eyes grew even brighter. "Emperor Changsheng, Lin Ling is the person that Emperor Yao is looking for. Aren't you afraid that you will offend Emperor Yao by interfering? You should know that Emperor Yao was only giving you face the last time. He is not afraid of you." Suddenly, a cold voice sounded. The one who spoke was an old man. He was obviously one of Emperor Yao's men. Emperor Yao was also here for Lin Ling's Quafu's sun-chasing boots. He was also curious about Lin Ling's secret. Naturally, he wouldn't give the treasure away so easily. "Emperor Yao?" Emperor Changsheng smiled faintly. "Who else wants to plead for Lin Ling?" "Me, from the 3 divine gates of White Mountain. Emperor Shun's men." Voices sounded from the other 2 directions in the city. "Very well. It seems like you don't know what kind of person I am. Before I reincarnated, other than the Yellow Emperor, I didn't care about the other 4 emperors. Now that I have reincarnated, my strength has improved the fastest. Those gods that I didn't care about in the past are nothing in my eyes now." Emperor Changsheng roared and stomped his foot on the ground. Boom! A terrifying amount of divine energy arrived. It reached tens of thousands. The god from Emperor Yao couldn't withstand the enormous amount of divine energy. His body exploded and he was taken away by the Tao realm. "With the likes of you ants." Emperor Changsheng stomped his foot again. Bang, bang, bang. After a few consecutive explosions, the gods from White Mountain and Emperor Shun were taken away. Too strong. One had to know that those gods were only mid-stage and late-stage mid-gods. Yet, they couldn't withstand a single kick. And it was from such a distance. Now, does anyone still dare to speak? Emperor Changsheng looked at the crowd. Emperor Yao and the remaining gods from the 3 divine gates of White Mountain didn't dare to speak. Their faces were pale. Although they already knew that Emperor Changsheng was strong, they only knew how strong he was after witnessing it with their own eyes. No wonder he didn't fear the 5 emperors. Chapter 47:27. Lin Ling smirked coldly. It was impossible for him to hand over the treasures. If he handed over the treasures, he would have to hand over the Chaos Divine Formula. The Chaos Divine Formula was Lin Ling's biggest secret. Even if the ancient giant god was here, he wouldn't hand it over, let alone the Eternal Emperor. Eternal Emperor, can you give me some face? Just as Lin Ling was about to speak, a figure suddenly descended and blocked the path between Lin Ling and the Eternal Emperor. This person was dressed in a black robe and his long hair cascaded down his back. His aura was that of a late-stage middle god. However, he seemed to be extremely talented and gave off a strong vibe. He was even stronger than Emperor Donghua and the others. Who do you think you are? The Eternal Emperor was extremely surprised that someone would dare to stop him at this point. I'm nothing. However, my master has taken a liking to Lin Ling and wants to keep Lin Ling as his disciple. Therefore, no matter what, you can't touch Lin Ling. At the same time, Lin Ling will become one of the divine servants that my master has personally appointed. The black-robed man said indifferently. Although the Eternal Emperor was not to be underestimated, he believed that he could make the Eternal Emperor wary. Moreover, the Eternal Emperor had killed Emperor Yao and the others. This was good because he could pressure Lin Ling and let Lin Ling know that only the Eternal Emperor could save him. You sure talk big. I wonder who your master is. The Eternal Emperor was not afraid at all. Great Emperor Xuanxu. The black-robed man said indifferently. The Eternal Emperor was about to shake his head when the black-robed man said again, Moreover, my master is in the city. Heavenly Monarch Changsheng's expression changed drastically. Although he dared to disrespect the Emperor Shun and Emperor Yao, it didn't mean that he could fight them. Most importantly, Great Emperor Xuanxu was in the city. If he really wanted to attack him, he wouldn't be a match. How is it? Do you still dare to say anything? The black-robed man wasn't surprised at all when he saw the longevity immortal emperor's reaction. He turned to the crowd and said, All right, now that Lin Ling has become the tomb of my lord, everyone can disperse. Of course, if there's anyone who disagrees, feel free to speak up. The deities of High Firmament City were all silent. Great Emperor Xuanxu was actually in the city. How could they resist? Looks like Lin Ling is safe and sound today. It had to be said that Lin Ling's luck was really good. Wait, I have an objection. However, right at this moment, an indifferent voice sounded out and broke the silence of the entire city. Oh, knowing that Great Emperor Xuanxu is here, there's actually someone who dares to be arrogant? The black-robed man was a bit surprised. When his gaze swept by, his pupils trembled. Because the one who spoke was actually Lin Ling. No one else had any objections, but Lin Ling did? What a joke. Lin Ling, you are already Great Emperor Xuanxu's subordinate. What objections do you have? Or are you afraid of something? The black-robed man immediately said, I, Lin Ling, have never been afraid of anything. However, when did I agree to be the tomb of Great Emperor Xuanxu? Or does Great Emperor Xuanxu think that I will be grateful to him for his timely help at such a crucial moment? Sorry, this kind of scheming is useless to me. If I, Lin Ling, really want to submit to someone, it depends on who is right. What's his character like? Lin Ling said indifferently, Great Emperor Xuanxu, whom I have never met, is not worthy. Not worthy. When the word came out, the entire city was in an uproar. Great Emperor Xuanxu was in the city and Lin Ling actually dared to speak in such a manner. Was he courting death? Moreover, before Great Emperor Xuanxu appeared, Lin Ling would definitely have to face the longevity immortal emperor. Now that he had rejected him, wasn't he jumping into a dead end? What are you talking about? The black-robed man was also shocked. I have my own principles. I won't easily be the tomb of others. Lin Ling said directly. If Lin Ling had met Great Emperor Xuanxu and felt that he was to his liking, there was a possibility that Great Emperor Xuanxu would submit to him. It was a pity that he had never met Great Emperor Xuanxu. Moreover, this person only came out to help at the last moment. It was obvious that he was scheming. This made Lin Ling feel a little disgusted. Lin Ling was also a person of high status. How could he not know what was going on? Taking a step back, it was just the 5 emperors. It wasn't as if Lin Ling hadn't seen them before. How great were they? If they were like Guang Qingzi and Patriarch Bodhi, those ancient gods, they would be qualified to subdue Lin Ling. You are courting death. The black-robed man was furious and shouted coldly, "All right, I won't bother about this anymore. I want to see how you die." As soon as he finished speaking, he took a step away and stood among the crowd, waiting to see how Lin Ling would end up. At the same time, in the restaurant, Great Emperor Xuanxu was also stunned. However, he wasn't angry. Instead, he smiled. Interesting. I didn't expect Lin Ling to be so arrogant. However, this is even better. If I can subdue such a person, he will definitely be loyal to me for life. Even if he dies for me, he won't. Frown. He is so arrogant. It's time to teach him a lesson. If I don't suppress his spirit, he won't know what I am capable of. He was also waiting for a good show. He was looking forward to Great Emperor Changxing teaching Lin Ling a lesson. Looking at Great Emperor Changxing, he was also extremely surprised. However, since Great Emperor Xuanxu wasn't going to interfere, he could take advantage of this. I have to say that you have some backbone. My view of you has changed. As a show of respect, I won't kill you. More so, I won't waste your chance to be protected by the Tao state. I will only defeat you and take your treasures. As soon as he finished speaking, Great Emperor Changxing's body exploded with light. The secret of immortality seemed to be revealed to the world. Bang! With a stomp of his foot, Firmament City shook. The power of 30,000 divinity exploded out. 30,000! That was several times the strength of a middle celestial. How could an ordinary person withstand that? Everyone shook their heads. They couldn't understand why Lin Ling was so foolish and arrogant. The man in the black robe revealed a gloating smile. His face was filled with anticipation. A superior celestial is indeed powerful. Lin Ling frowned. He knew that he couldn't hide his strength anymore. Pangu struck with the earth-splitting strike. His body seemed to have become bigger. His head reached the sky and his feet stepped on the ground. The ancient aura around him was as if he had turned into Pangu. Boom! A powerful divine energy burst out from the ground and landed on Lin Ling. It was like a raging sea, trying to tear Lin Ling into pieces. However, under countless horrified gazes, Lin Ling only paused for a moment. Not only was he not injured, he even shot towards Great Emperor Changxing. *CK. This can't be real, right? 30,000 divine energy can't do anything to him? He's just a middle celestial. The deities were shocked as if they had seen a freak. This was also the first time they had seen such a powerful middle celestial. What's going on? Is that the steps of God? But how can the steps of God withstand so much divine energy? Chapter 47:28. The movement seemed slow, but it happened in the blink of an eye. This was a kind of God's staircase. With this kind of God's staircase, one would be immortal and have an endless lifespan. Moreover, it would increase a huge amount of God's energy. Mountain, sea, heaven and earth reversal. An ancient voice that seemed to have come from ancient times rang out. When Eternal Emperor's thick palms landed on the ground, a terrifying illusion appeared. It was as if the entire firmament city was being sent flying. Bang, bang, bang. Countless gods lost their balance and fell to the ground. A large number of Tao realm protectors appeared and brought the gods away. This move was too powerful. It was a killing move that covered a large area. His divine energy had reached 50,000 units. Not to mention mid-stage mid-gods, even high gods wouldn't be able to withstand his attack. He's dead, he's dead. Should I help him? The black-robed man also floated up and spat out a mouthful of blood. However, he laughed bitterly. Now, it was not a matter of whether he helped or not. He could not help. If he got close, he would be killed by the god's energy. At the same time, Emperor Yao, White Mountain, and the other gods were all pale. The order they received was to bring Lin Ling back. But now, Lin Ling was most likely going to die. If Lin Ling's Dao Realm protectors were used up, it would be even worse. He couldn't be more dead. Rumble. Endless God's energy suppressed Lin Ling, causing Lin Ling to feel a sense of pressure. However, the earth-splitting technique, God's energy, was invincible. Raising his hand high, he executed the heaven-splitting slash and slashed at Monarch Chang Sheng. Now, Lin Ling also wanted to see if the Eternal the Arch could live forever. You! The Chang Sheng Immortal Emperor suddenly felt a sense of danger. He raised his head and his eyes were trembling. In his vision, a figure was flying towards him at high speed. It was as though a heaven-splitting move was about to strike him. At this moment, he felt as if he was looking at the benefactor who had once enlightened him. Too strong. Why was this kid fine against 50,000 gods' energy? How could there be such a powerful mid-stage middle god in the universe? Mountain Sea Spirit Mountain. Monarch Chang Sheng roared and raised his palms into the sky, turning into a spiritual mountain that emerged from the sea of mountains. Rumble. Lin Ling fiercely chopped down and landed on top of the spirit mountain. The chopping caused the seawater to flow backwards and soar into the sky. The spirit mountain that was filled with divine light was actually chopped into pieces, causing rocks to fly everywhere. Rumble. At this moment, the entire high firmament city was in an uproar. Many of the divine palaces from the past also collapsed. In the restaurant, Great Emperor Xuanxu's pupils quivered. What kind of killer move was that? He sensed that a power that did not belong to the god's steps had appeared. However, Lin Ling's cultivation level was still too low. He could not kill Emperor Chang Sheng in one strike. This was also the first time Lin Ling had failed since he used Split the Heavens. Buzz buzz buzz. The heaven-splitting slash's power continued to weaken and the Shanhai Ling Mountain slowly turned into a human. The Chang Sheng monarch was still holding the sky with his hands, but his palms were already dripping with blood. At this moment, his face was full of shock and even very pale. This guy is a mid-stage middle deity? If that's true, when this guy reaches the late-stage middle deity level, he will be able to kill even a high-stage deity. What a powerful move. Unfortunately, you're still a little short. The Chang Sheng monarch shook off the blood on his palms and looked coldly at Lin Ling. This was also the first time he was injured by a mid-stage middle deity. Your longevity probably has something to do with the earth. It's just that you have a long lifespan. It doesn't mean that you can't be killed. Lin Ling smiled faintly. Indeed, it's not that I can't be killed. Now, what other moves do you have? The Chang Sheng monarch's eyes were filled with murderous intent. For a mid-stage deity like Lin Ling, if he did not die, there would be endless trouble in the future. Hearing this, Lin Ling continued to smile coldly but did not say a word. He still had one more chance to be protected by the Dao realm, so he planned to leave. As for Lei Gong's palace, they also planned to leave. After all, they had more chances to be protected by the Dao realm. However, at this moment, a voice transmission came. Senior Lin Ling, are you in Firmament City? This voice was very unfamiliar. Lin Ling did not know who the owner of this voice was. However, this person was very polite and addressed Lin Ling as senior. Who are you? How do you know that I'm in Firmament City? Lin Ling frowned and replied. I heard your name before, and some deities left Firmament City. They were also talking about you, so I knew. That's right, I'm Ignore. The other party's voice was very excited. Ignore. Lin Ling was even more confused. He did not know this person in the Dao realm. Senior Lin Ling, have you forgotten? I was following the Yellow Emperor in the abyss. The voice came again, and Lin Ling finally understood. He remembered that there were two deities by the Yellow Emperor's side, and they seemed to be called Ignore. Lin Ling, what are you doing? Could it be that you want to inform some expert? Let me tell you, if you don't hand over your secrets, no one can do anything. At this moment, the longevity immortal emperor saw that Lin Ling was ignoring him and talking to himself, and he was instantly furious. He could see that Lin Ling's ferocious methods were a one-time thing, so he was not in a hurry. Senior Lin Ling, are you in trouble? The voice seemed to have heard the longevity immortal emperor's words and immediately asked, Yes, I've run into some small trouble. Someone called longevity immortal emperor stopped me. Lin Ling did not hide anything. Longevity immortal emperor? Little longevity? Good, the cowherd boy of the past is also so arrogant. Senior Lin Ling, where are you? I'll come immediately. The other party was furious when he heard longevity immortal emperor. Cowherd boy? Lin Ling frowned, but still said, I'm at the immortal slaying stage in Firmament City. Wait for me. The voice disappeared. It seemed that he was angrily rushing over. Lin Ling, what are you stalling for? The longevity immortal emperor was still staring at Lin Ling. Did you find someone to help you? Good, I'll wait for him. Humph, today you fought Donghua Emperor and exchanged a few blows with me. It's unfair for me to bully you now. I'll give you a chance. He had brought many experts with him, and his cultivation level was high. That was why he was giving Lin Ling a chance. Not really. It's just that this person is looking for me urgently. If you can wait, then wait. If you can't, then fight. Lin Ling said indifferently. If he could not win, he could just return to the void of the 9 continents. Anyway, although the longevity immortal emperor was stronger than him, he was not that strong. Oh right, he called you cowherd boy. Lin Ling said again. Damn, cowherd boy? The longevity immortal emperor was stunned. He was so angry that veins popped out on his forehead. He was the longevity immortal emperor, but he was being treated as a cowherd boy. This was nonsense. However, cowherd boy. Chapter 4729. However, Emperor Changxing did not think too much about it. He continued to sneer at Lin Ling. Now, he wanted to see what kind of trouble Lin Ling could cause. The commotion in Firmament City gradually quieted down. All the deities looked at Lin Ling. They knew that Lin Ling could not escape. However, Lin Ling was also very powerful. He had actually lasted for so long in the hands of Emperor Changxing. This was also very impressive. Emperor Zhuanshu still hasn't given the order. Is he going to help or not? However, with my strength, Emperor Changxing will not give me face. It seems like Emperor Changxing has to step in personally. In the crowd, the black-robed man thought to himself. He guessed that Emperor Changxing was about to come. In the restaurant, Emperor Zhuanshu's lips curled into a smile. He drank the last mouthful of wine and planned to help. He knew very well that Lin Ling had reached the end of his rope. No one dared to step in and help him. Now was the best time to help. However, just as Emperor Zhuanshu put down his wine cup and was about to help, a figure suddenly appeared below the immortal slaying stage. This person was very unfamiliar. It was a mysterious man. Hee, there's still someone here? Forget it, I'll go later. Emperor Zhuanshu was not worried. He continued to drink another cup of wine. He estimated that after the next cup, it would be his turn to help. At this moment, everyone below the immortal slaying stage was shocked. The person who appeared beside Lin Ling was a man wearing animal skin. He looked very old, but no one knew him. However, his strength was somewhat unfathomable. This was a higher deity. The longevity immortal emperor frowned. A high god had been dispatched? This Lin Ling was clearly a nobody in his previous life. How could he know a higher deity? Senior Lin Ling, are you all right? The man ignored everyone and bowed slightly to Lin Ling. Lin Ling also recognized this person. He nodded and smiled. What can happen to me? That's right. Senior Lin Ling possesses remarkable abilities. How could an ordinary person touch Senior Lin Ling? The man smiled and nodded. During this trip to the abyss, he had personally witnessed Lin Ling's miraculous abilities. Senior? A high god addressed him as senior? Heavens, how could such a thing happen? It must be fake. Seeing that man bow, the deities were all shocked. Only the laughing Buddha and the others were frowning. For some reason, that person looked familiar. They were sure that they had seen him before, but because they didn't know his name, they couldn't remember where they had seen him before. Immortal Emperor, do you know your crime? The man retracted his smile and looked at the longevity Immortal Emperor. Guilty? I, the Changsheng Emperor, am immortal. I will never know how to write the word sin. Emperor Changsheng sneered. He was not afraid of the man at all. Cowherd boy, I haven't seen you in so many years, but your courage has grown quite a bit. If the Lord knew that your wings have hardened now, I'm afraid he wouldn't be lacking in gratification. The man snorted coldly, and his tone carried a reprimand. Sir? The longevity Immortal Emperor frowned and asked, Who is your lord? The man looked around. Thinking of the old man's indifference to fame and fortune, he didn't announce it. Instead, he sent a voice transmission. Lord Yellow Emperor. When the voice reached the longevity Immortal Emperor's ears, he felt as if he was struck by lightning. Dang dang dang. His face was pale, and he was even a little terrified. Back when he was still a cowherd boy, he often herded cows by the Divine River. Later, he was enlightened by the Divine River and stepped onto the path of deities. The Divine River eventually became a great Tao and took the form of a human. It was the Yellow Emperor. To the longevity Immortal Emperor, he was not afraid of anything. The only person he respected in his life was the Yellow Emperor. He even thought of himself as the Yellow Emperor's disciple. It was just that the Yellow Emperor didn't acknowledge him. I remember now. I think I saw you 30 million years ago. You were a fisherman by the Divine River. The longevity Immortal Emperor suddenly roared. You finally remember. The man called Disregard nodded. Now, you dare to provoke Senior Lin Ling. Do you know how troublesome this is? Even the Lord has to be polite to Senior Lin Ling and treat him as a peer. What right do you have to speak to Senior Lin Ling? The longevity Immortal Emperor's face turned even paler. A mid-stage middle god treated the Yellow Emperor as a peer? What the hell, are you kidding me? You might not believe it, but you should know that Disregard has been with the Lord for his entire life. Unless it's something urgent, he won't leave his side. Now that I've come personally, do you understand what I mean? Seeing the longevity Immortal Emperor's shock, Disregard continued. The longevity Immortal Emperor's body trembled. He naturally knew this. He also knew that the Yellow Emperor had countless people by his side. Disregard wasn't the strongest, but they were the only ones who could follow the Yellow Emperor. This was because the two of them had attained their Tao by the Divine River and had a deep friendship with the Yellow Emperor. Unless it was something really important, the two of them wouldn't leave the Yellow Emperor. During the great calamity of the world will, the longevity Immortal Emperor heard that even after the Yellow Emperor fell, the two of them didn't leave his side. Things were getting troublesome. He immediately turned to Lin Ling and bowed under the shocked gazes of the entire city. Taoist Lin, I was reckless before. Please forgive me. The longevity Immortal Emperor apologizes to you. The entire city was in an uproar. Countless gods sucked in a breath of cold air. Far away in the restaurant, the Zhuanshu Immortal Emperor's eyes trembled. What was going on? One had to know that he had wanted to personally save Lin Ling. But at the critical moment, someone intervened and made the longevity Immortal Emperor bow respectfully. Moreover, he was familiar with the longevity Immortal Emperor. This person seemed arrogant and unafraid of any gods, but that was because he had a powerful backer behind him. Otherwise, with the prestige of Emperor Yao and the others, how could they not dare to touch the longevity Immortal Emperor? And the backer behind the longevity Immortal Emperor was the legendary Yellow Emperor. The Yellow Emperor, the leader of the 5 emperors, was also one of the most mysterious. Even the longevity Immortal Emperor had never seen this legendary human leader. But now, the longevity Immortal Emperor, who had the Yellow Emperor's backing, actually bowed to Lin Ling? Could it be that this mysterious man had some sort of background? Senior Lin Ling, you have the final say in this matter. At this moment, the longevity immortal emperor looked at Lin Ling and said with incomparable respect. This made all the gods even more confused. They couldn't figure out who this person was. Only the laughing Buddha and the other gods knew. They were so scared that their lips turned white and they didn't dare to say a word. Back at the bottom of the abyss, the mysterious old man had personally admitted that he was the Yellow Emperor. Therefore, they all knew that this longevity immortal emperor was one of the Yellow Emperor's people. Of course, they didn't expect the Yellow Emperor to personally step in for Lin Ling, and even befriend someone of the same generation. One had to know that although Lin Ling had helped a lot in the 1,000-year promise, it was only enough to make the Yellow Emperor owe him a favor. That was far from enough to meet someone of the same generation. Chapter 4730. If it was any other time, he would have attacked Emperor Chongqing long ago. However, he did not do so today. This meant that Emperor Chongqing was also one of the Yellow Emperor's men. Moreover, Lin Ling did not suffer any losses, so he could not be bothered to pursue the matter. Emperor Chongqing, why aren't you thanking Senior Lin Ling? Yiji rejoiced and looked at Emperor Chongqing coldly. Although he respected Emperor Chongqing, he had long known this cowherd boy by the Celestial River. At some point in time, he also treated Emperor Chongqing as his younger brother. If it was any other matter, he would definitely support Emperor Chongqing, but Lin Ling's matter was a different matter. Now that Lin Ling didn't pursue the matter, he felt relieved for Emperor Chongqing. Thank you, Lord Lin Ling. Thank you, Lord Lin Ling. Emperor Chongqing was overjoyed and quickly bowed. All right, this matter is settled. Jiji nodded and looked at all the gods. Then he said to Emperor Chongqing, I'll leave this matter to you. Then he looked at Lin Ling and said, Senior Lin Ling, would you like to come with me? Lin Ling pondered for a moment and nodded. He had nowhere to go, so it wouldn't be a bad idea to meet the Yellow Emperor. Moreover, he could help Lei Gong and the others find a place to stay. Jiji was overjoyed when he saw Lin Ling nod and quickly asked Lin Ling to leave. Lin Ling called out to the Thunder God Great Hall and the others and left Firmament City in large strides. Wow, what's going on? Xing Yi and the others were confused. They didn't understand why Emperor Chongqing was so afraid when the mysterious man appeared. One had to know that Emperor Chongqing didn't even give face to Emperor Yao, White Mountain, and the other 3 divine gates. What the hell was this? Only Longyang, Lei Gong, and the others were deep in thought. The more they thought about it, the more surprised they were. Although Lin Ling had helped the Yellow Emperor, it wasn't to the extent that the Yellow Emperor would befriend someone of the same generation. This was too inconceivable. Only Lin Ling knew that the reason the Yellow Emperor treated him so courteously was all because of Guang Qingzi. Leaving just like that? At this moment, all the deities in the city were dumbfounded as they watched Lin Ling and the others leave. Lin Ling had offended so many ancient gods, yet he was still able to leave alive? It had to be said that this was a miracle. Suddenly, they looked at the longevity immortal emperor. They were curious why the longevity immortal emperor didn't dare to pursue the matter anymore. How strange! The black-robed man was also frowning. Disperse! Emperor Chongqing hollered at the crowd and left with his men. Great Emperor, WWH, what happened? After witnessing everything that had happened in the tomb of the longevity emperor, everyone was scared out of their wits. Now that Lin Ling had left, they asked cautiously. We can't afford to offend this person. Luckily, he didn't pursue the matter. Otherwise, even if we don't die, we'll lose a layer of skin. The longevity immortal emperor said with lingering fear. If the Yellow Emperor could enlighten him, he could naturally beat him back to his original form. That's scary. Everyone's faces turned even paler. One of the elders mustered up the courage to ask, Great Emperor, what's the background of that Lin Ling? The longevity immortal emperor looked around and secretly used his divine ability. After confirming that no one was following them, he said solemnly, his background is not to be underestimated. However, that person is indifferent to fame and fortune, so not many people have seen him before. His name is the Yellow Emperor. The Yellow Emperor from the legends? The old man roared, but before he could finish, the longevity immortal emperor slapped him. What are you shouting for? He knew very well that the Yellow Emperor was not like the other 5 emperors. He liked freedom and often went out on patrol in plain clothes. Therefore, if he revealed the Yellow Emperor's identity, the Yellow Emperor would definitely beat him to death. Thank goodness, thank goodness. If that Lin Ling pursued the matter, we'll lose a layer of skin even if we don't die. The deities said nervously. At this moment, Lin Ling ignored them and walked along the vast land. Suddenly, 2 figures blocked their path. One of them was the black-robed man from before. At this moment, his expression was very ugly. The other person had an extraordinary aura. He stood in the sky as if he represented the sky. On his body, a sense of omnipotence enveloped everyone in Lei Gong's hall. It gave them the illusion that there was nothing this person couldn't do. He could change a world, create a universe. He was simply invincible. Lei Gong and the others gasped. This was the first time they saw such a terrifying expert. A strange thought appeared in their minds. It was as if their existence was the breath of that man. The man didn't say anything. He just looked at Lin Ling and the Neglect Immortal Emperor. Lin Ling and the Neglect Immortal Emperor's eyes flashed. They also sensed the strength of this person. However, compared to Lei Gong and the others, the 2 of them were undoubtedly much more surprised. After all, Lin Ling and the Neglect Immortal Emperor were people who had seen great things. Needless to say, he had followed the Yellow Emperor for a long time and had been through countless years. Lin Ling, on the other hand, had already seen ancient giant gods who were much stronger than this man. Other things aside, he already had a lot of prison cells. However, these ancient deities weren't like this man in front of them. They didn't reveal their auras easily. The 2 of you have extraordinary Tao hearts. To be able to maintain your composure in front of me. How rare! After an unknown period of time, the man spoke indifferently. He stared at Lin Ling and said, "It's been a long time since someone dared to reject me. After so many years, you're the first." He then looked at the Neglect Immortal Emperor and said, "You're also the first to snatch someone from me." His voice seemed calm, but it carried a domineering aura. His words made Lin Ling and the Neglect Immortal Emperor's eyes flash. They finally guessed the origin of this person. One of the 5 emperors, Emperor Zhuanshu. In fact, after the black-robed man appeared, Lin Ling already had a guess. "What are you trying to do?" Lin Ling smiled calmly and said indifferently, "I'm not doing anything. I just feel that since you dared to reject me, you should pay a price. After all, to be able to catch my eye is a supreme opportunity. If you miss this opportunity, the heavens will not tolerate it. You should face some heavenly punishment." The man said indifferently. Hearing that, Lin Ling's smile widened. Just one of the 5 emperors. Did he really think he was the heavens? Or was he bullying Lin Ling for not seeing any ancient deities? "What are you laughing at?" Emperor Zhuanshu frowned when he saw that Lin Ling was not afraid after knowing his identity. Instead, he smiled calmly. His mood became even worse. He was already very unhappy when he failed to subdue Lin Ling. Now that he had personally appeared, not only was the other party not afraid, but he was also used to it. He didn't take him seriously at all. "I'm laughing. You're too full of yourself," Lin Ling said after smiling. "You're courting death." The black-robed man beside Emperor Zhuanshu immediately shouted angrily, "Do you know who he is? He's one of the 5 emperors, Emperor Zhuanshu." Chapter 4731. The black-robed man's eyes turned cold. Great Emperor Zhuanshu's face turned gloomy. "Great Emperor Zhuanshu, right? I've heard of you and I know why you want to take Senior Lin Ling as your tomb. It's because of the seed of Tao. It's a pity that you can plant the seed of Tao on anyone but you can't do it on Senior Lin Ling." At this moment, Lu Zhe said, "What's the seed of Tao?" Lin Ling frowned. "A demonic seed will be planted in your heart of martial arts. It will be extracted once every 10,000 years and then absorbed by Great Emperor Zhuanshu to refine your comprehension of the universe's great Tao. The person who wants to plant a demonic seed must have an incomparably firm Tao heart." Guan Yu explained with a cold glint in his eyes. "How dare Great Emperor Zhuanshu mess with Senior Lin Ling? Upon hearing this, Lin Ling's face turned cold. He knew what the seed of Tao meant. To put it bluntly, Great Emperor Xuanxu was treating him like a beast. Every once in a while, Great Emperor Xuanxu would extract some of Lin Ling's flesh and blood to strengthen himself. What a vicious method. Watum. Bullsh*T. What was ironic was that Great Emperor Xuanxu still had the guts to reward him. Great Emperor Xuanxu, I don't have any grudges with you. How dare you mess with me? Lin Ling said coldly. Great Emperor Xuanxu was even angrier as he didn't expect the man to know about his methods. However, he remained calm and said, although the seed of Tao is for my benefit, you will also benefit from it. It will allow you to step into the strength of a higher god. Therefore, you will benefit from it. Benefit your ass. Lin Ling rebuked him angrily. You said before that it was my good fortune to be able to be under your grave, but I felt that you weren't worthy. But now, I feel that you're not worthy of speaking to me. Now, get out of my way. Lin Ling, you have to know who I am. After being scolded by Lin Ling again and again, Great Emperor Xuanxu's face turned even colder. I can tell you that you have to do it today even if you don't want to. You can't refuse. Haha, Great Emperor Xuanxu, I, Lin Ling, will also put my words here. If I, Lin Ling, want to leave, not to mention you, even if your father is here, he can't stop me. Try it if you dare. Lin Ling roared with laughter. His impression of Great Emperor Xuanxu plummeted. He even shed all pretense of cordiality and became an enemy. Great Emperor Xuanxu let out a cold laugh as well. He knew that Lin Ling's trump card was disregard. It was just that Lin Ling was merely a higher god. Great Emperor Xuanxu did not care about him at all. However, Lin Ling ignored him and said to the people in Lei Gong's hall, let's go. Lin Ling's. Yu and the rest were worried as they knew that Great Emperor Xuanxu would not allow them to leave. He doesn't dare to stop me. Lin Ling did not say much. He took a big step forward and was about to leave Great Emperor Xuanxu's side. Great Emperor Xuanxu's eyes turned even colder. In the Tao realm, no one could stop him if he wanted to leave someone behind. He did not believe that a mere middle god was qualified to escape from his hands. If Lin Ling could do that, he would give up his position as one of the 5 emperors. However, just as he was about to make a move, a faintly discernible voice suddenly sounded. Brother Xuanxu, Sir Lin Ling is my friend. You're not giving me any face by attacking him. This voice was very old, but it made Great Emperor Xuanxu tremble. Friend? He looked deeply at Lin Ling. This person was actually that senior's friend? Then, he stared at Lin Ling and suddenly understood why Great Emperor Chongqing did not dare to speak. It was because of that old man. Although he had never seen the owner of the voice, he was very familiar with this voice. Great Emperor Xuanxu, aren't you very powerful? Lin Ling had already stepped past Great Emperor Xuanxu. At the same time, he said coldly, not giving Great Emperor Xuanxu any face. Great Emperor Xuanxu did not move. His eyes were burning with anger. With that senior's words, he really did not dare to attack Lin Ling. He could only watch as Lin Ling and the rest gradually disappeared into the distance. Sir, this. The black-robed man had been waiting for Great Emperor Xuanxu to attack. He was very surprised. He is Emperor Huang's man. Great Emperor Xuanxu said coldly. Emperor Huang, the most mysterious Emperor Huang among the 5 emperors? The black-robed man gasped. He suddenly felt that Lin Ling was about to soar into the sky. At this moment, Lin Ling followed him and moved forward. Along the way, he flew across endless barren mountains. Lin Ling was infuriated by Great Emperor Xuanxu. His current strength wasn't strong enough. Otherwise, he would definitely return the favor. After all, he had no enmity with Great Emperor Xuanxu. However, Great Emperor Xuanxu treated him as a cauldron. This was a form of humiliation for Lin Ling. Senior Lin Ling, we are in Sir's territory. Here, no one can challenge you. Great Emperor Xuanxu's voice came from the side. Lin Ling immediately saw a powerful aura emanating from the endless barren mountains below. It was very strong. It was as if there were ancient dragons hidden in the mountains. This is Emperor Huang's territory? Lin Ling could not help but ask curiously. Senior Lin Ling, This is only one of the Yellow Emperor's territories. The gods here are all from the same era, so they know each other and are very united. That's why gods from other eras don't dare to come here easily. Great Emperor Zhuanshu laughed. Has Emperor Huang always lived here? Lin Ling asked again. Disregard shook his head. Sir does not have a fixed residence. Sometimes he is in the Tao realm, sometimes he is in the Chaos realm, and sometimes he is in the void of the universe. In fact, 99% of the gods here do not know who Emperor Huang is. However, Emperor Huang's name is too famous. Ordinary gods have to give face to him. Lin Ling nodded. Then he sensed something and flew downwards. On the vast land, there was a small river. There were crops planted beside the river. An old man wearing a straw hat and holding a hoe was planting crops. Lin Ling obviously knew that old man. It was Emperor Huang. Senior Lin Ling is here. Suddenly, the old man raised his head. When he saw Lin Ling in the sky, he could not help but laugh. He was the only one who knew that Lin Ling was the Lord Warden, who had the ability to imprison the ancient gods. Even his master was now imprisoned in the prison. He, the Yellow Emperor, did not dare to offend such a mysterious god. This old man is Emperor Huang? Saint Yi, Yu Yu, and the others all stared at Emperor Huang in surprise. They did not expect that the oldest and most experienced human leader of the 5 emperors would be so easy to talk to. Compared to Emperor Yao, Emperor Zhuanshu, and the other rising stars, he was obviously much more benevolent. However, this was the true leader of the human race. Senior Emperor Huang. After Lin Ling landed, he bowed slightly to the Yellow Emperor. You're still calling me senior? If you don't mind, you can call me old brother. The Yellow Emperor frowned and said, Old brother Huang Di. Chapter 4732. In the following days, Lei Gong and the others stayed in the palace. This area was the Yellow Emperor's territory, so there was no danger at all. When they were free, Longyang and Lei Gong would often ask the Yellow Emperor questions about cultivation. They benefited a lot from it. Lin Ling, on the other hand, did not need them. The only thing he lacked for his current breakthrough was the cultivation treasure. Lin Ling continued to stabilize his realm. Unfortunately, the mid-stage of Midgod was vast and boundless. Lin Ling felt that he would need some time to stabilize his realm. Looks like I have to get more Tao realm fragments. Lin Ling secretly shook his head. After cultivating for a while, he went to guide Yu Yu and the others. Occasionally, he would chat with the Yellow Emperor. Their relationship was getting better and better. From the Yellow Emperor, Lin Ling also learned about a lot of difficult and complicated problems in cultivation. As for the Yellow Emperor, although he had more experience than Lin Ling's insights were always on point. The Yellow Emperor also benefited a lot from it. At the same time, Lin Ling wanted to thank the Yellow Emperor for his help, so he let Master Guangxing meet the Yellow Emperor. Lin Ling did not go to see the scene, but he guessed that the master and disciple would have a lot to talk about. 3 days later, when Master Guangxing returned to the prison, Lin Ling also noticed that the Yellow Emperor was more polite to him. He did not know what Master Guangxing said to the Yellow Emperor that made the Yellow Emperor change so much. As for Master Guangxing and the others, they had been guarding the area. Through the gods in the Endless Mountains, they found out that Emperor Yao, Emperor Shun, and White Mountain were all looking for Lin Ling. The Yellow Emperor wanted to deal with it personally, but he was rejected by Lin Ling. First, he had a great enmity with Emperor Yao and the others. Even if Emperor Yao and the others gave the Yellow Emperor face, it was only on the surface. They still wanted to kill him. Secondly, Lin Ling had no intention of letting them off. After Lin Ling said this, the Yellow Emperor did not appear again. He continued to guide Lei Gong and the others in their cultivation. Moreover, he already knew that Lei Gong and the others were actually hosts of the World Will. Furthermore, there were a total of 3 World Will hosts. Normally, the Yellow Emperor should have killed the host body of the World Will. This was because the Yellow Emperor knew that these World Will host bodies had yet to mature. Otherwise, they would definitely be incomparably terrifying in the future. In just a short period of time, the Yellow Emperor had already treated Lei Gong and Xiaoluan as his friends. Although they were the hosts of the World Will, Lei Gong and the others had their own ideas. They might not follow the world will's mission. Therefore, not only did the Yellow Emperor not attack Lei Gong and the others, he even focused on guiding them. He wanted to make them stronger so that they would not be controlled by the world will. Lin Ling, 8 hosts of the world will have appeared. It is said that 7 have appeared in the void of the 9 prefectures, and the 8th is in the primal chaos realm. However, no one knows who this person is. As for the 9th and 10th, according to the rumors, the 9th host is in the 8 gods' heaven. Unfortunately, it is very difficult for the gods of the primal chaos realm to enter the void of the 9 prefectures. The stronger one is, the lower the chances of entering. On the other hand, you guys came from the void of the 9 prefectures, so this is a good opportunity to enter the 8 gods' heaven. When he was free, the Yellow Emperor looked for Lin Ling to chat. 8 gods' heaven. Lin Ling's eyes flashed. He had promised the giant ghost that he would bring it back to the 8 gods' heaven. However, because of the matter with Xiaoluan and Longyang, it had been delayed for a long time. Now, it was time to fulfill his promise. I will find the host body of the 8th world will. Lin Ling said to Lei Gong. The Yellow Emperor shook his head and said, You came from the void of the 9 prefectures, so you can return at any time. However, it will not be easy to enter the 8th floor of the 8 gods' heaven. Lin Ling immediately smiled. No problem. I just happen to have the key to the 8 gods' heaven, and it is the most accurate key. What? The Yellow Emperor's eyes narrowed. He knew that many people in the primal chaos realm and the Tao realm had the key to the 8 gods' heaven, but he did not expect that Lin Ling also had the most accurate key. Then you should go immediately. Not long ago, I received news that a large number of gods are heading to the void of the 9 prefectures in an attempt to find the 8 gods' heaven. They have entered the final destination, and I heard that the final destination not only has the record of the host body of the 8th world will, but also a supreme treasure. Moreover, it is said that the gods heading to the void of the 9 prefectures are experts from the Tao Pagoda. The Yellow Emperor continued. Tao Pagoda? Lin Ling's eyes flashed. When he had just entered the Tao realm, he had already heard of the Tao Pagoda. And the Tao Pagoda has accumulated the strongest gods of several eras. There is a fog barrier there that prevents ordinary gods from entering, so there are not many people on our side who can enter. The Yellow Emperor explained, As for the gods in the Tao Pagoda, they are the strongest gods after reincarnating. Some of them were famous in the past. Some of them are famous, but some are unknown like you, but they are very strong. Compared to old brother Yellow Emperor? Lin Ling asked. There are many people stronger than me, and I am only ranked in the middle. The Yellow Emperor explained, My fame came from back then, so there are many gods who give me face. However, I am still a reincarnated cultivator, and my strength is no longer the same as before. Most importantly, the gods of my master's era were mostly in the Tao Pagoda, so they were naturally very strong. Hearing this, Lin Ling suddenly understood, his eyes burning. It was said that if one reached the peak of the Tao Pagoda, they could obtain the entire Tao realm. Just this alone was enough to make countless gods go crazy. Isn't it said that the stronger the god, the harder it is to enter the 9 provinces void? Why can they enter the 9 provinces void? Lin Ling asked again. It is also because of the Tao Pagoda. Lei Gong shook his head and said, In fact, the Tao Pagoda has the power of 10 million universes. Not only can it enter the 9 provinces void, it can even enter the primal chaos realm. It is just that it requires a lot of Tao realm fragments. It is even rumored that the Tao Pagoda has the power to return to the past, but I'm afraid that one has to reach the peak of the Tao Pagoda first. Only the peak can do it. Return to the past? Lin Ling sucked in a breath of cold air. If he could return to the past, wouldn't he be able to return to the time when the world wills were fighting? The Tao Pagoda was too awesome. Now that you have the key to the 8 gods' celestial palace, my master is looking for you. The Yellow Emperor suddenly thought of something and smiled. Not long ago, my master asked me if I could find a god to go to the 8 gods' celestial palace. Who would have thought that you would have the key? Senior Guangchengzi? Lin Ling immediately nodded and entered the square prison. When he arrived at the prison with the endless green mountains, he saw that Guang Chengzi was already waiting there. After seeing Lin Ling, he couldn't help but smile. "Your Excellency Lin Ling, I didn't think that you would have the key to enter the 8 gods' celestial palace. It just so happens that this old man has something to ask of you." Guang Chengzi cupped his hands towards Lin Ling. "Senior Guang Chengzi, what is it?" Lin Ling immediately asked. "The 8 gods' celestial palace has a precious treasure that I left behind, the cyclic sky seal, so I hope that Your Excellency Lin Ling can help me get it back." Guang Chengzi didn't hide anything and bluntly said. Chapter 47-33. Master Guangqing nodded and said awkwardly, "Due to certain reasons, it ended up in the 8 gods' celestial palace. However, this treasure is one of the top Chaos Saint artifacts below Chaos Divine artifacts. It is extremely powerful and specializes in smacking people's heads. Therefore, I did not want it to fall into the hands of others." Specializes in smacking people's heads? Lin Ling was tongue-tied. What a vicious treasure. "I will teach you how to collect this treasure. If you succeed, I will reward you." Master Guangqing continued, "Narutoporia, it can allow you to enter the netherworld without fear of the poison of the 3 corpses. It can even cultivate primordial mystic chi, just like the great Yin-Yang primordial mystical dragon. 5-colored jellyfish, the king of mica produced by the 5-colored divine stone that mended the heavens. It can increase one's divine energy by a large amount. Jade powder, jade baby jade, and chu leaf." Master Guangqing continued to list out treasures. These were all treasures from the primordial era that only existed in the primordial era. Lin Ling's heart thumped violently. If he could obtain these treasures, wouldn't he be able to open his 8th dantian? Or a deal? Lin Ling had no reason to refuse. After all, to open his 8th dantian by relying on a Dao realm fragment would require an astronomical amount of resources. "That's good. I will give you 3 more life-saving seedlings. They can allow you to erupt with power that can harm a high god. However, each use is limited, so you must cherish them." Master Guangqing smiled and nodded at Lin Ling's agreement. "High god?" Lin Ling's heart trembled. Originally, with the strength of the 9 prefectures void, it was impossible for a high god to appear. However, the 8 gods' celestial palace was of great importance and the Dao Pagoda had sent a god. Therefore, it was very likely that a high god would appear. And with Lin Ling's current strength, he could only contend against early-stage high gods. Moreover, they were only ordinary high gods. However, if he had those 3 seedlings, it would be hard to say. "Senior Guangqing, don't tell me you lost that heaven-flipping seal to the 8 gods?" After receiving the 3 seedlings, Lin Ling smiled at Master Guangqing. "This hot." Master Guangqing smiled but did not say anything. "Hot." Lin Ling also smiled and didn't ask any more questions. He sized up the 3 seedlings in his hand and strode away. These 3 seedlings looked very ordinary, but Lin Ling had a feeling that these were the first 3 seedlings to be born. Even if these treasures were very ordinary in his previous life, because of the long passage of time, they all possessed great power. After leaving the square prison, Lin Ling went to look for Lei Gong and the rest, asking who was planning to go with him to the 8 gods' heavenly palace. Without a doubt, the giant ghost was one of them. Following that, Xingyi, treasure god Nan Wufenyu, god Emperor Zhan Steel, and even young Qilin and pure maiden Whitewater volunteered themselves. As for Lei Gong, Little Luan, and Longyang, they all stayed with the Yellow Emperor to cultivate. This was because the Yellow Emperor had a way to make the world will host even stronger. This method was also known as replacement. Every time a new era was opened, his strength would increase by several times. This was because the world will host body was also divided into different eras. The more ancient the era, the stronger the strength. And this method was something the Yellow Emperor had accidentally obtained in the past. Looking at Yu and the rest, they knew that this trip wouldn't be of much help, but they hadn't returned to the 9 prefectures for a long time, so they also wanted to go back and take a look. Regarding this, Lin Ling also agreed. And so, everyone left together. After a long time, Lei Gong's palace appeared in the 9 prefectures void again. Looking at the ancient land of the 9 prefectures, everyone felt as if they had been reborn. Although 100 years passed in the blink of an eye after becoming gods, after returning, they felt as if they hadn't returned for many years. "We're back!" Yu and Yuer and the rest smiled excitedly. "Second brother, we're back." Sakura looked at Lin Ling, his eyes somewhat moist. With his current strength, he could see the northern territory with a single glance, and even the rainforest sacred land. And this was the place where he and Lin Ling grew up. Moreover, after so many years, the rainforest sacred land was no longer the same. It was full of vitality, just like the era when Lin Ling practiced martial arts. The youths in the rainforest sacred land were still full of vigor, looking forward to standing at the peak of the rainforest sacred land in the future. Unfortunately, they didn't know that the rainforest sacred land was just one of the 10,000 worlds. Above the 10,000 worlds, there was the 9 prefectures, the divine realm, and the most ancient chaotic realm. "Let's go!" Lin Ling's gaze swept across the entire 9 prefectures. Seeing that there were no major obstacles, he led everyone to the void where Lei Gong's palace was located. "Grandfather, mother." When Lin Ling and the rest appeared, the entire void shook, and everyone came out to welcome Lin Ling and the rest. Ancestor Din, Emonienshin, Lin Yi, there were too many. Moreover, their strength had greatly increased, and in the entire 9 prefectures, they were the strongest existences. This was all thanks to the treasures that Lin Ling had brought back over all these years, which allowed them to increase their cultivation and increase their lifespan. The family was reunited, and on that night, this place was undoubtedly the liveliest. Lin Ling accompanied his family and enjoyed the hard-won peace. He wasn't in a hurry to find the 8 gods' celestial palace. After all, although he had the key to the 8 gods' celestial palace, he had no clue where it was located. However, he wasn't worried about not being able to find the 8 gods' celestial palace. This was because he believed that someone from the spirit nation would definitely come and find the 8 gods' celestial palace. When that time came, all he had to do was to follow them in. Therefore, what Lin Ling needed to do now was to wait. A month passed quietly. On this day, Lin Ling, Sakura, and the young demon lord left this void and arrived at the 9 prefectures. The taste of home is indeed the best. Sakura looked at the sky of the 9 prefectures and realized that the sky here was even shorter. The mountains, water, and everything else here couldn't compare to the Tao realm. However, everything here was so familiar that it made one feel incomparably comfortable. "Yes." Lin Ling nodded, looked into the distance, and suddenly said, "He was talking about the years of battle back then." "Haha, God Slayer Alliance." The young demon lord laughed at the side. "Lin Ling, when you first joined the God Slayer Alliance, I looked down on you. It was only when you joined forces with us to kill martial god Qilin that we acknowledged you." Majin Tianzi also nodded. "At that time, I was wondering where this kid came from. He actually killed martial god Qilin. He's too awesome. However, who would have thought that you've already surpassed us by 1,000 times, huh?" Hearing their words, Lin Ling couldn't help but laugh. The years of battle back then were beautiful, and they were also the memories of Lin Ling's life. Now that he thought about it, he felt a sense of pride. Life was long, and there were some things that one had to experience personally to not live in vain. At Grandma Wendao. Chapter 4734. It's a good thing we came back in time. Otherwise, we would have missed this. Sakura was very powerful, so he also noticed it. Grandma Wendao was a close friend that Lin Ling met in the rainforest sacred ground. In fact, Grandma Wendao was also a close friend of Lin Ling and had helped him a lot in the past. However, ever since Lin Ling became strong, he rarely saw Grandma Wendao. This was not because Lin Ling was ungrateful, but because he had too many things to do. Plus, Grandma Wendao had always lived in Qing province and did not stay with ancestor Taiyin and the others. Thus, she missed out on many treasures to cultivate. This was also Grandma Wendao's stubbornness because Lin Ling did not invite her to Lei Gong's hall. Unfortunately, Grandma Wendao rejected him. Let's go, it's a good thing we still have time. Lin Ling led young Master Yao and the others to Qingzhou. With their current strength, helping Grandma Wendao was as easy as flipping a hand. At this moment, Qing province was faintly becoming one of the top 2 provinces in the 9 states. Moreover, everyone knew that the Empress of Qing province was incomparably powerful and had the backing of a god. Thus, in the 9 states, no one dared to provoke Qing province. And the Empress of Qing province was still the 3rd princess. Lin Ling's group landed on the street. Lin Ling suddenly pondered and spread out his soul force to find a woman. This woman was the daughter of Yi City's city lord, Yi Xiannu. Back then, Yi Xiannu fell in love with Lin Ling at first sight. However, at that time, Lin Ling only wanted to cultivate, so he let Yi Xiannu down. What made Lin Ling helpless was that Yi Xiannu did not give up and was still waiting for Lin Ling. After so many years, Lin Ling had met many excellent women, such as Lu Susu and others. However, this was the first time Lin Ling saw someone as infatuated as Yi Xiannu. Yi Xiannu's father, the city lord of Yi City, was now a citizen of the Spirit Kingdom. As a result, Yi Xiannu could only leave Yi City and was arranged to live in Qing province by Lin Ling. Sigh, why bother? Lin Ling sighed inwardly. Presently, he only wanted to become stronger so that when the will of the world came again, he could protect himself and his family, and he temporarily didn't have the heart to talk about love. Second brother, what will come will come. Let's go and see her. Seeing Lin Ling sighing, Sakura couldn't help but laugh. Lin Ling nodded and strolled forward. After passing through several streets, a woman appeared in front of him. She was wearing ordinary clothes, but she was elegant and refined. At this moment, she was buying groceries like a mortal. Although Yi Xiannu was powerful, she did not like to cultivate. She preferred to live an ordinary life. Although she was arranged to stay here by Lin Ling and knew the 3rd princess, after a long time, the 3rd princess did not pay much attention to her. On the other hand, there was a man beside her who often accompanied her. It was obvious that he had fallen in love with Xian Yanvi. On the other hand, Lin Ling shook his head as he watched the scene from afar. If that man and Xian Yanvi could be together, it would be a good thing. At least Xian Yanvi would not have to wait for him in vain. That man is quite powerful. At the side, Sakura suddenly said. From his perspective, that man's strength could be ranked among the top in the 9 prefectures. Yes, but although that woman is quite good-looking, a powerful warrior would not be afraid of not being liked. That man would not have to wait here bitterly just to pursue Xian Yanvi. Young Beast Lord laughed. It's hard to say. Maybe it's true love? Majin Tianzi shook his head. What do you know about true love? Young Beast Lord said disdainfully to Majin Tianzi, in my opinion, it's probably because of other reasons. Think about it, Xian Yanvi's father has a powerful background. Maybe that man wants to use Xian Yanvi to curry favor with the Spirit Nation. No matter what, this kind of thing depends on what that woman thinks. Majin Tianzi laughed. Lin Ling watched quietly. He thought that the man and Xian Yanvi had known each other for a long time and that they were already together. However, after watching for a while, he helplessly realized that Xian Yanvi's reaction to the man was very cold. She ignored his passion. Lin Ling sighed. He felt that he had underestimated Xian Yanvi's infatuation once again. He walked forward slowly. If Xian Yanvi and that man were together, Lin Ling would definitely turn around and leave. He would even wish them happiness. However, that was obviously not the case. Lin Ling was not so heartless as to ignore Xian Yanvi. Xian Yanvi, my brother said that you haven't seen the 3rd princess for a long time. During this period, Grandma Wendao will probably be leaving. Therefore, he would like to invite you to send her off. Birth, old age, illness, and death are unchangeable principles. I know that although you came to Qingzhou later, you have a good relationship with Grandma Wendao. Now that Grandma Wendao is leaving, you must be in a bad mood. Tonight, let's go and see Grandma Wendao. The man followed behind Xian Yanvi and said. Xian Yanvi nodded casually. Suddenly, she stopped in her tracks. Her eyes trembled violently as she stared at the man walking over from afar. The man was wearing a blue robe. His long hair was tied behind his head. He was handsome and out of this world. However, other than his handsome appearance, everything else about him was very ordinary. Only when one looked into the man's eyes did one realize that he was a vast world. This man was Lin Ling. "You're back." Xian Envy looked at Lin Ling in disbelief. Her eyes were trembling. Lin Ling nodded at Xian Envy and walked up to her. "How have you been all these years?" "Good." Xian Envy's heart was in turmoil. She had many things to say. However, in the end, she could only say one word. "That's good." Lin Ling's heart was also filled with complicated emotions. The two of them looked at each other quietly. Behind Xian Envy, the young man frowned. He was a little unhappy. Everyone in Qingzhou knew that Xian Envy was the woman that Lin Zilong was pursuing. This man was really bold. How dare he provoke his woman? "Sir, may I know who you are?" Lin Zilong suppressed the anger in his heart and asked lightly. One had to admit that he was wearing a purple robe. His facial features were handsome. He was even more handsome than Lin Ling. In addition, his strength was not weak. No wonder he had the confidence to pursue Xian Yanvi. With his appearance and strength, he would be the object of admiration of countless women in Jiuzhou. However, Lin Ling and Xian Yanvi ignored him. They were still looking at each other. "Sir, this is Qingzhou." Lin Zilong's voice was low. He was boiling with anger. His brother, Lin Qinglong, was the husband of the current empress of Qingzhou. Qingzhou was one of the most mysterious places in Jiuzhou. It was backed by a deity. This had caused his status to rise. Now, someone dared to ignore him? Lin Ling had obviously sensed his anger, but unfortunately, he couldn't be bothered with it. Sakura and the others, who were far away on the street, were a little surprised. Who is this guy? He failed to get a girl, so he wants to vent his anger on Lin Ling. Chapter 47-35. Your Excellency. Yes. Lin Zilong shouted again, "I am Lin Zilong, one of the twin dragons." The twin dragons were very famous in Qingzhou and even in Jiuzhou. There were not many people who did not know this name. "Lin Zilong, please leave. He is the one I have been waiting for. Now that he is here, I don't want him to misunderstand." "Yes." However, before Lin Ling could speak, Xian Yi Fairy had already spoken. Her voice was cold and she shut Lin Zilong out. Lin Zilong was stunned. He wanted to say something but he did not know what to say. Because Xian Yi Fairy had rejected him. In the end, he could only watch as Lin Ling and Xian Yi Fairy left. His heart was trembling at this moment. He did not know if he liked Xian Yi Fairy. Other than the heartache, there was an indescribable feeling. It was his pride. It was as if his pride had been trampled on and he was no match for that strange man. Who is he? Lin Zilong gritted his teeth and left the street. Although the people on the street did not know what had happened, Lin Zilong felt that everyone was laughing at him. "How have you been all these years?" Lin Ling did not have time to care about a small fry like Lin Zilong. He walked away with Xian Yi Fairy. Xian Yi Fairy nodded and did not dare to look at Lin Ling. She did not know why she missed Lin Ling. However, when she faced Lin Ling, her heart beat violently. She was so nervous that she could not speak. Moreover, she had a feeling that Lin Ling had found her again. Could it be that Lin Ling had already accepted her? No, Lin Ling was not the kind of man who would fall in love easily. He had found her again because he sympathized with her. Xian Yi Fairy's eyes suddenly dimmed when she thought of that. She did not need sympathy. She only needed Lin Ling to truly like her. "In fact, we have not known each other for long. If I said that I really like you, I would be lying to you." As if he knew what Xian Yi Fairy was thinking, Lin Ling suddenly said calmly. Lin Ling's words made Yi Xian woman smile, but she didn't blame him. "However, although I don't like it now, it doesn't mean that I won't like it in the future," Lin Ling said again. Lin Ling had a good impression of Xian Yanvi. Otherwise, he wouldn't have approached Xian Yanvi as soon as he came back. Although they didn't have deep feelings for each other, Lin Ling believed that feelings could be cultivated slowly. "Lin Ling." Yi Xian Nu suddenly raised her head and stared at Lin Ling. In the end, he remained silent. To be honest, she did not like Lin Ling acting like this, because it was as if he was rewarding her. However, she did not blame Lin Ling, because she had not interacted much with Lin Ling. Lin Ling would not fall in love with her at first sight. Actually, the fact that Lin Ling could say these words to her was already very good. Thank you. I'll leave everything to God. Yi Xiannu was very understanding and smiled at Lin Ling. Lin Ling sighed. In fact, he was not good at dealing with relationships. Therefore, if Yi Xiannu could forget him, he would definitely leave. Unfortunately, Yi Xiannu did not. That was why Lin Ling approached Yi Xiannu. However, Yi Xiannu was right. Leave everything to God. Didn't you visit the third princess this time? Yi Xiannu suddenly asked Lin Ling. I'm here for them. Of course, I'm here to visit Grandma Wendao. Lin Ling said with a smile. But... Yi Xiannu looked at Lin Ling and stopped. Lin Ling frowned and asked, Is there something wrong? Actually, I shouldn't interfere in these matters. However, I can't bear to see Grandma Wendao end up alone. Grandma Wendao is where she is today because of the third princess. Yi Xiannu hesitated and finally spoke. The third princess? Lin Ling frowned. He was the one who supported the third princess to become the Azure Emperor of Qingzhou. Back then, she could be considered as part of Lin Ling's disciple. However, the third princess and Grandma Wendao were close friends. Why did Grandma Wendao's lifespan depletion have something to do with the third princess? Because Grandma Wendao was already injured. She was injured by the third princess's husband, Lin Qinglong, who is also Lin Zilong's brother. They are known as the twin dragons. Yi Xiannu said, Does the third princess not care about this? Lin Ling's face turned ugly. He could not believe that the third princess would become like this. I don't know if the third princess knows about this. However, I think she should know. She just doesn't want to care about it. All these years, ever since the third princess became the Azure Emperor, she has quietly changed. She has become a little unreasonable. I heard from Grandma Wendao that the person who accompanied the third princess in the past was the one who helped the third princess conquer the country. If they're not dead, then they've been chased away. Yi Xiannu sighed softly. Hearing this, Lin Ling's eyes narrowed. Qingzhou was the place where he first came to the 9 states. When he first came to Qingzhou, the first place he went to was the military camp, the martial gods camp. In the end, he even became the Grand Marshal of the martial gods camp. Therefore, he remembered the Holy Flame Tiger, the Red Jade Tiger, the Eighth Lord, and many other people. Although these people were very far away, they were still Lin Ling's friends. However, now, these people were either gone or dead. Why did the third princess become like this? Lin Ling said coldly. I don't know either. When I came, the third princess was already like this. I remember when you left me in Qingzhou, the third princess was very polite to me. However, after 1 or 2 years after you left, she became cold and indifferent. Only Grandma Wendao was very good to me. Yi Xiannu said, however, the third princess is becoming more and more ruthless towards Grandma Wendao. It is as if she is deeply afraid that Grandma Wendao will harm her and steal her Qingzhou. The Emperor's suspicion. Lin Ling shouted in a low voice. The third princess became the Azure Emperor of Qingzhou. She held a high position and controlled the life and death of others. As time passed, she was unwilling to give up this position of power. She was deeply afraid that the people who had fought with her back then would harm her and steal her position as the emperor. However, Lin Ling still couldn't believe that the third princess would become like this and be so bold. Because you haven't been back for too long. Even when you came back, it was just a quick meeting. Therefore, you don't know the secret. Yi Xiannu sighed softly when she saw Lin Ling's expression. Let's go and see Grandma Wendao. Lin Ling didn't say anything else and led Yi Xiannu forward. Along the way, Sakura and the others also appeared. Lin Ling also told them about the matter, which undoubtedly made Sakura and the others furious. The Azure Emperor behind Qingzhou was actually Lin Ling. Back then, Lin Ling had given the Azure Emperor's position to the third princess. However, he didn't expect the third princess to treat Lin Ling's former friends like this. One should know that without those people, Lin Ling might have died in Qingzhou. This way. Chapter 4736. This was because Grandma Wendao knew the most about the third princess. Therefore, the third princess did not want Grandma Wendao to interact with others. Who goes there? The place where Grandma Wendao lived was a quiet little mountain village. When Lin Ling and the rest approached, an expert immediately shouted angrily. These experts were not weak. They were ranked among the top in Qingzhou and could not be underestimated even in Jiuzhou. Unfortunately, they were much weaker than Lin Ling and the rest. Most importantly, Lin Ling could see that they were all wearing the armor of the Martial God Battalion. The Martial God Battalion was the first place Lin Ling went to after coming to Qingzhou. I'm here to see Grandma Wendao. Lin Ling gave the Martial God Battalion some face. Who are you? Do you think you can meet her just because you say so? The leader of the men shouted coldly. He suddenly looked at Xian Yanvi and recognized her. So it's you. You're so thick-skinned. How dare you come back after being chased away? Xian Yanvi took a step back and hid behind Lin Ling. She looked fearful. Although Xian Yanvi came from Miao Prefecture, which used to be the most powerful prefecture in Jiuzhou, Qingzhou had already risen to power and its strength had surpassed many divine continents. Therefore, with her strength, she could not fight against these experts. All of you, get out of my way. Lin Ling narrowed his eyes and spat out a sentence coldly. Kid, I don't know who you are, but this is an important place. If you dare to barge in, don't blame us for being rude. The men in armor took out their weapons and their auras filled the air. Moreover, a large number of experts walked out from the depths of the mountain village and suppressed Lin Ling with their powerful auras. It's Xian Yanvi. At this time, another voice was heard. A man was walking in the sky from afar. It was Lin Zilong. He stared at Lin Ling and the rest with a disdainful smile. He did not expect the man that Xian Yanvi liked to come here. Who are you? You can't barge in here. Lin Zilong said calmly after landing. He seemed to be speaking politely, but in fact, he wanted to teach Lin Ling a lesson. The reason why he was polite was because Xian Yi Fairy was here. He wanted to give this man a good beating in front of Xian Yi Fairy. Of course, he was slightly puzzled in his heart, because he was actually unable to see through these people, and they gave him the feeling that they were weak like mortals. However, he didn't think too much about it. In his opinion, he had seen all the strongest cultivators in the 9 prefectures. Therefore, these people had nothing to fear. I can't just barge into this place. I'm being nice because you're from the Martial God Battalion. Don't test my patience. Lin Ling glanced at Lin Zilong, not bothering to pay attention to him. He continued to look at the experts in armor. Where do you think this place is? This is Qing Province, and this is the place that Emperor Qing values. Everything under the heavens belongs to Emperor Qing. Everything you stand on belongs to Emperor Qing, including every blade of grass and flower. Lin Zilong shouted coldly. Moreover, in the entire Jiuzhou, there are very few people who dare to not give face to Qingzhou. Who do you think you are? Who do I think I am? Sakura and the others laughed. Who do you think you are? What does Qing Province have to do with you? Who is Emperor Qing here? What does that have to do with you? They couldn't help but think that Lin Zilong was simply courting death. I'm the overall marshal of Qing Province. Who do you think I am? My identity and origin are 100 times, 1,000 times more than yours. Lin Zilong laughed loudly, his voice filled with contempt and disdain. He wanted to ruthlessly suppress Lin Ling and the others in front of Xian Yi Fairy. He wanted to let Xian Yi Fairy know that the man she liked was nothing more than this. In the north of Qing Province, evil cultivators rose up. It was I who led the army and slaughtered all the evil cultivators, protecting the safety of Qing Province. 800 years ago, King Yi rebelled in Qing Province. It was I who joined forces with Imperial Advisor Lin Qinglong to attack King Yi and protect the safety of Qing Province. Who do you think I am? In the entire Qing Province, who doesn't know the name of the 2 dragons? Lin Zilong said proudly, his voice louder and louder. That's right, this is Lord Lin Zilong. The surrounding experts also said with admiration. They had all seen Lin Zilong's sacrifice for Qing province. Then they also looked at Lin Ling and the others with contempt. They wanted to see Lin Ling and the others feel inferior and fearful. However, young Beastmaster and the others laughed loudly. They all knew that Lin Ling had conquered Qing province. Lin Ling was the real Emperor Qing. Back then, the previous Emperor Qing had wanted to kill the third princess. The great Qing dynasty's crown prince and Empress Dowager had also stirred up trouble. In the end, it was Lin Ling who had protected the third princess and passed the position of Emperor Qing to the third princess. Lin Zilong had overestimated himself by saying such useless things in front of Lin Ling. Taking a step back, although there had been many internal strife in Qing province these years, the internal strife had all originated from Qing province. This was because the real enemy of Jiuzhou had long been stopped by Lin Ling. At that time, no one in Jiuzhou dared to invade Qing province. It was all because of Lin Ling. Did these people know? They did not know at all. They only thought that everything was due to their efforts. Get lost. Lin Ling did not bother to talk nonsense. He took a step forward and released his aura. Bang, bang, bang. Everyone seemed to have been attacked by a storm and fell to the ground in pieces. Then, their expressions changed drastically. Who was this person? He was so powerful. Because they were all the top experts in Qingzhou. It was very difficult to defeat them, let alone defeat them with aura alone. Only Lin Zilong was still standing in the same place. His eyes were trembling. So powerful? Obviously, he was also very surprised. At this time, Lin Ling led Xian Yi and the others forward. However, when they passed by Lin Zilong, Lin Ling stopped and finally looked at Lin Zilong. Of course, it was just a glance. You've said so much. I don't even know what you're talking about. Lin Ling said disdainfully and continued forward. That was true disdain. Not only was he disdainful of Lin Zilong, but he was also disdainful of everything that Lin Zilong had done. In Lin Ling's eyes, everything was a fart. You. Lin Zilong stood in the same place, trembling. His expression was extremely ugly. He felt a strong sense of disdain. It was as if he was a dog that only knew how to bark. Others were not interested in a dog at all. They could not be bothered to touch a puppy. Most importantly, such disdain was displayed in front of Xian Yi. How could Lin Zilong face others? Inform the army that demons have appeared in Qing province. Ask the 6 military camps to eliminate the demons. Lin Zilong gritted his teeth and said, "Yes, Marshal." The experts on the ground finally reacted and quickly dispersed. Their expressions were extremely ugly. They did not believe that a few people could go against the entire Qing province. That was a dream. One had to know that Qing province was so powerful that even if the other 2 provinces of Jiuzhou joined forces, they would not be able to touch Qing province. Moreover, there were only a few people. Chapter 47-37. At this moment, Lin Ling led Sakura and the rest forward. Suddenly, he realized that the village was very poor. The villagers were all dressed in rags and even ate sweet potatoes, tree bark and other things. And these poor villagers were looking at Lin Ling and the rest in awe. "Grandma Wendao is here," Yixian and Vi said to Lin Ling. A moment later, they arrived in front of a shabby hut. Although the hut was shabby, it was clean and tidy. Wood was burning in the hut and green smoke floated out from the roof. Grandma Wendao was also an expert in the rainforest. How did she end up like this? Looking at the shabby hut, Lin Ling's eyes became colder. Because Grandma Wendao had repeatedly suggested to the third princess not to take action against her former heroes. This angered Lin Qinglong, so the third princess treated Grandma Wendao like this. Seeing Lin Ling's expression, Yixian and Vi immediately said, "Third princess, don't tell me you don't want your old friends after having your husband?" Lin Ling shouted coldly. He couldn't understand why the third princess had changed so much. Immediately, he pushed the door open and entered. In the hut, the old lady was cooking porridge. She sat in front of the fire. Every movement was incomparably strenuous, and she looked lifeless. She hunched her back and remained silent. Her former glory seemed to have nothing to do with her. If it weren't for her, Lin Ling wouldn't have known the third princess and wouldn't have helped her. But now, she had ended up like this. It was extremely miserable. Lin Ling looked at Grandma Wendao quietly. His eyes were moist. He could see that Grandma Wendao was seriously injured. Her meridians were broken, which caused her to be lifeless and her vitality to dissipate. Otherwise, with Grandma Wendao's strength, she wouldn't have exhausted her vitality so quickly. Grandma Wendao, little Lin, you're back. Lin Ling walked forward step by step. It was as if he had walked through countless years and returned to the time when he was still in the rainforest. It was as if he had returned to Li Xiaoyao and met his best friend. You, who are you? The old lady slowly turned around and frowned at Lin Ling. Her expression was blank and her memory had weakened a lot. But gradually, her eyes lit up and her face was a little excited. But the wooden bowl in his hands fell to the ground because of his excitement. But at the crucial moment, Lin Ling caught it. You look like little Li, the old man said with difficulty. The little Li he was talking about was naturally Li Xiaoyao. Back then, every time she saw Lin Ling, she would tease him. However, Lin Ling had been away for too long, fighting in the 9 continents, the final world, and even the Dao realm. The old man had almost forgotten about Lin Ling. It's me. It's me. Lin Ling smiled excitedly and helped the old man up. You're back, you're back. Grandma Wendao was getting more and more excited. She almost fell down, but Lin Ling caught her with one hand. With his other hand, a powerful life force surged into Grandma Wendao's body. With Lin Ling's current strength, saving Grandma Wendao was as easy as flipping his hand. After all, Grandma Wendao was not like Ning Qingxin. She was not a god and the underworld did not care about her life. Lin Ling also helped Grandma Wendao to the bedside. During this process, Grandma Wendao was getting more and more energetic. She seemed to have recovered her previous strength. Of course, if Lin Ling came a few days later, it would be hard to say. Grandma Wendao, do you still remember me? Sakura was familiar with Grandma Wendao and said with a smile. Grandma Wendao's face gradually turned red and she remembered more things. She suddenly smiled. I remember you, Sakura. Ah, you're back too. Her voice became louder and louder. She looked at Lin Ling again. Little Li, it's really you. You're really back. As she spoke, she burst into tears again. It's been so many years. Actually, everyone has been waiting for you. But you came and left in a hurry every time. Only the third princess could see you. Sighed. Grandma Wendao sighed. It was because Lin Ling came and left in a hurry that it was difficult for them to tell Lin Ling about the third princess. Moreover, the third princess would also block them and not let them see Lin Ling. The friends who had fought side by side with Lin Ling were almost all dead now. Lord 8th, Scarlet Jade Tiger, too many. If I could come back more often, they wouldn't have left. Lin Ling's face was also a little gloomy. It's not your fault. Some of them died because of the exhaustion of their lifespan. Some died because of the old injuries in their bodies. In the unseen world, everything is fate. Grandma Wendao smiled and shook her head. You can't watch them step by step. You can't change the entire world. Birth, old age, illness, and death are one of the laws of heaven and earth. There can't be an exception because of you. Hearing this, Lin Ling nodded. Alright, let's not talk about this. Let's talk about some happy things in the past. Alright, Xializi, do you have wine? I haven't drunk for many years. I suddenly feel like drinking. As the vitality continued to enter her body, Grandma Wendao also recovered to her peak. Even she didn't notice this. She thought that people were in high spirits because of the happy events. Yes. Lin Ling smiled and nodded. He took out the wine and sat down with Di Shirtian and the rest. Then he happily drank the wine. They all told the story of the past as if they had returned to a long, long time ago. Yi Xiannu watched this scene quietly. She was extremely happy because this was the first time she saw Grandma Wendao so happy. Grandma Wendao, are you all right? After an unknown period of time, a voice suddenly came from outside the house. It was Lin Zilong. Now that a demon has appeared in Qingzhou, I was afraid that Grandma Wendao would be hurt, so I brought people to take a look. Is the demon in the house now? Lin Zilong said again. The voice also interrupted Grandma Wendao and the rest. Grandma Wendao's face turned cold. She was chased to this small village to put her under house arrest. She was not allowed to see the third princess and was not allowed to speak nonsense in front of the third princess. This was all the twin dragon's idea. At the same time, Lin Ling also sneered. In fact, Lin Ling already knew what was going on outside the small village at a glance. What made him helpless was that the small village was surrounded by the 6 barracks of the past. Back then he, Lin Ling, was the overall marshal of the 6 barracks. This was also the reason why Lin Ling didn't make a move for the time being. After all, Lin Ling was also a nostalgic person. However, there was a limit to any nostalgia, not to mention that the 6 military camps were no longer the same as before. Xializi, Qingzhou has changed. It has become the third princess world, the twin dragons world. Sigh. Grandma Wendao sighed and looked at Lin Ling with guilt. Chapter 4738. To be honest, if Qingzhou was not one of the top few places in the 9 continents, the 2 dragons would not have set their eyes on Qingzhou. Because Qingzhou's appeal and influence were too strong, no one in the 9 continents dared to defy them. Getting Qingzhou meant getting half of the 9 continents. That was the goal of the 2 dragons. However, they did not expect that all of this was because of Lin Ling's brilliance. If one day, Lin Ling told the 9 continents that he no longer cared about Qingzhou, then Qingzhou would return to its original state and become the weakest prefecture in the 9 continents. Come out. How long are you going to hide? At this time, a voice came from outside the house again, mixed with an irresistible majesty. Shaoli. Grandma Wendao could not help but look at Lin Ling. She had not seen Lin Ling for many years, so she did not know how powerful Lin Ling was now. Although she heard that he was a god, she did not know how powerful a god was and where the limits of a god were. She did not know any of this. On the contrary, she was familiar with Lin Zilong and knew that he was indeed very powerful, ranked in the top 5 in the entire Qingzhou. He was even ranked in the top 30 in the entire 9 continents. Most importantly, because he was from Qingzhou, he knew all the heroes in the 9 continents. Don't worry, let's go out and have a look. Lin Ling shook his head and strode out. After walking out of the thatched cottage, he looked around and saw that the entire village had been destroyed and trampled to the ground. Even the endless green hills behind the village had been trampled to the ground, turning it into a flat land. Countless experts appeared in all directions, surrounding the thatched huts so tightly that not even a drop of water could trickle through. Upon closer inspection, there were actually millions of experts present. They were all wearing armor, and the killing intent on their bodies was extremely dense. 6 barracks. The martial gods' barracks, the war gods' barracks, and other powerful barracks had all arrived. There were martial gods' cannons on the ground, martial gods' crossbows, and demonic beast mounts that were hundreds of meters tall. This was the backbone of Qingzhou. It was also because of this strength that Qingzhou was able to enjoy peace for thousands of years. 6 barracks. Grandma Wendao gasped as she looked at the densely packed experts. Yixian Nu frowned. She did not expect Lin Ling to mobilize the 6 battalions to deal with Lin Ling. On the contrary, Lin Ling's eyes flickered, and a complicated feeling arose in his heart. 6 tribes barracks. Back then, it was Lin Ling's tomb. However, thousands of years later, these once loyal tomb followers all pointed their spears at Lin Ling. The 6 military camps seemed to have completely forgotten who had made them what they were today. Little Li, what should we do? At this moment, Grandma Wendao frowned and said worriedly. Lin Ling shook his head and looked indifferently at the millions of soldiers. Let them know who we are. At this time, Lin Zilong waved his flag and summoned 1,000,000 lions. At this moment, he was sitting on a war chariot, wearing white armor and a cape. He looked majestic. He was the Grand Marshal of the 6 armies. We are from the 6 tribes. Their voices rang out in unison, shaking the heavens. At this moment, the entire Qing province was shaken. Countless people raised their heads and looked in this direction. Some curious people even flew over and landed in the distance, staring at the scene on the ground. Next, they all gasped. The 6 tribes' barracks were mobilized. In Qingzhou, this was something that had not happened for decades. With the voices of millions of people united, a gust of wind blew, blowing Lin Ling and the rest's long hair. However, Lin Ling, Sakura, and the rest were silent. They seemed to have seen the shadows of the past. The fluttering flags made them feel as if they had returned to the past, when they fought side by side with millions of soldiers. Seeing Lin Ling and the rest were silent, Lin Zilong sneered. In his opinion, Lin Ling and the rest should be afraid and regretting it. Lin Zilong spoke again, "Tell them who I am." The Grand Marshal of the 6 tribes' barracks, the Grand Marshal with the greatest military merit in history. Neat voices floated out again. Many generals stared at Lin Zilong with a hint of worship in their eyes. The Grand Marshal with the greatest military exploits in the history of the 6 armies? When Sakura heard this, sorrow inexplicably rose in his heart. If Lin Zilong was the Grand Marshal with the greatest military merit, then what about Lin Ling? Who was it that carried forward the 6 tribes' barracks and made them the giants of Qingzhou? It was Lin Ling. Unfortunately, who would remember Lin Ling at this moment? To us, thousands of years are very short, but to them, thousands of years are very long, so long that they have forgotten a lot of things. Lin Ling sighed and said faintly, "Yes, but looking at the people who used to be under the grave surrounding them, this feeling is indeed uncomfortable. Of course, it is more of a kind of anger." Sakura shook his head and said, "Tell them what the 6 tribes' barracks are." At this moment, Lin Zilong shouted again. The 6 tribes' barracks, the sword of Qingzhou. No matter which great enemy comes, the 6 tribes' barracks will always be the first to block the wind and rain. 30 years ago, the evil practitioners of Qingzhou ran amok and gathered millions of evil practitioners to seize the position of Qingzhou. It was the 6 tribes' barracks who worked together and killed the evil practitioners after millions of casualties. 50 years ago, the underground king rose and swept across the northern region of Qingzhou. It was the 6 tribes' barracks who fought for 3 years and killed the underground demons. 800 years ago, there were strong enemies from 9 regions who came to show off and killed our Qingzhou martial artists. It was the 6 tribes' barracks who were not afraid of death and perished together with the enemy. It raised the prestige of Qingzhou and made 9 regions not dare to look down on Qingzhou. Loud shouts floated out, recounting the proud achievements of those years. The 6 tribes' barracks are indeed the sword of Qingzhou. The eyes of the people in the distance flickered, their blood was boiling, and they were full of worship. It was because of the 6 tribes' barracks that their Qingzhou could enjoy peace for thousands of years. The 6 tribes' barracks were also the soul of Qingzhou. "You guys, do you have anything else to say?" At this time, Lin Zilong looked at Lin Ling and the others. Disrupting the order of Qingzhou is a demon. Ignoring the laws of Qingzhou is a demon. I don't care who you are. Since you dare to come to Qingzhou, even if you are a dragon, you will have to obediently lie down. The 6 tribes' barracks are the soul of Qingzhou. Under my leadership, they will reach the peak. As long as I am here, you will not be able to disrupt the order of Qingzhou. Following Lin Zilong's loud shout, the sky in the distance also burst into cheers. The people of Qingzhou all worshipped Lin Zilong. "Now, why don't you just wait to be captured?" Lin Zilong gently pressed down with one hand and the cheers in the distance disappeared. He looked at Lin Ling and the others majestically and said, "Now, these people were not only going against the 6 tribes' barracks, they were going against the entire Qingzhou. What qualifications did they have?" Under countless gazes, Lin Ling and the others remained silent. Grandma Wendao and Lady Yixian were afraid, while Sakura and the others were sighing in their hearts. Because without Lin Ling, would Qingzhou still exist today? Chapter 4739. Originally, I should feel nostalgic when I see them again. However, everything has changed. Since I gave birth to them, let me destroy them. At this moment, Lin Ling slowly raised his head and calmly looked at the countless army. Previously, he could not bear to do so. However, he suddenly understood that everything was destined. It was karma. The cause was Lin Ling's protection. The effect was the strength of the 6 military camps. Without cause, how could there be effect? Whoever started the trouble should end it. Where is the third princess? At this moment, Lin Ling's eyes regained their calmness. However, there was already a flame burning in the depths of his eyes. He did not know what the third princess had done, nor did he know what Qingzhou had done, nor did he want to know what the 6 military camps had done. However, he knew that the meritorious subjects of the past had either died or fled. He, Lin Ling, would seek justice for these people. Qingzhou was left by Lin Ling to everyone, not just the third princess. His Majesty is not someone an ant like you can meet. Lin Zilong sneered. Now, you should think about how to face the army. The army is nothing but dust to me. Lin Ling took a step forward and walked forward. Shameless boasting. Men, capture this kid and behead him in public in Qingzhou as a warning to others. Lin Zilong shouted and gave the order. Warning to others. Millions of people were also shouting. Their voices were earth-shattering. However, at this moment, Lin Ling took a step forward. It seemed to be a calm step, but it seemed to have opened some kind of taboo. A gust of invisible wind blew out. Pa-pa-pa. The armors of the million-strong army began to crack. Sabers broke and spears cracked. War horses neighed. The second step was taken. Bang bang bang. The entire army was on the verge of collapse. Their expressions changed drastically. The third step was taken. Boom. An earth-shattering aura descended. At this moment, the million-strong army was turned into dust. No one saw what action it was. No one sensed any power. However, in just 3 steps, the 6 armies were destroyed. Was this the power of the 6 military camps that had achieved endless military merits over the past 100 years? Was this the blade of Qingzhou? The originally densely packed ground was now empty. Only a war chariot had appeared there, and a person was standing on top of it. It was Lin Zilong. At this moment, his pupils were trembling and his face was pale. The army is nothing but dust to me. He remembered what the young man had said before. He looked around again. A gentle breeze blew past, blowing up an endless amount of dust. What used to be his tomb had now turned into dust and disappeared from the world with pride. Lin Zilong roared and drove the war chariot towards the sky. 3 steps. Grandma Wendao's face was filled with disbelief. What kind of method was this? In her mind, no matter how strong Lin Ling was, he still needed to make a move. He needed to rely on the sword in his hand to kill the enemies one by one. However, he didn't. He only took 3 steps. Such methods were simply beyond her imagination. Could this be the means of a god? Lin Zilong escaped. Xian Envy was also shocked, but she spoke anxiously. She didn't know why, but she could understand Lin Ling's feelings at this moment. This was because the 6 military camps were originally led by Lin Ling. Now that they were destroyed by Lin Ling must be in a bad mood. It's okay. I just asked him to lead the way and inform the third princess. Lin Ling smiled and shook his head. He suddenly looked at Xian Yanvi and said, "Maybe you think I'm sad. In my heart, the 6 military camps have disappeared with the wind with the departure of my old friends. What's left are just some memories. They are just some memories." After speaking, Lin Ling took a step forward and walked into the distance. Xian Envy and the others saw this and gritted their teeth and quickly followed after him. The onlookers in the distance were all dumbfounded. They couldn't believe their eyes. The 6 military camps had defeated countless strong enemies and stepped through endless storms. However, today, they were flattened in 3 steps. What did this mean? This meant that between heaven and earth, only power was eternal. Qingzhou, one of the 9 states. No one has dared to invade us for many years. Poor they. No matter who they are, they have to die when facing the third princess. The dignity of Qingzhou is inviolable. That's right. I've read the history books. 800 years ago, there were foreign experts who invaded Qingzhou, but they all died in the end. It's said that behind Qingzhou, there is a god supporting us. Then, those people gritted their teeth and said, they thought that those people were courting death. Unfortunately, they didn't know that the so-called god was actually among that group of people. Oh no, there are experts coming from Qingzhou. Haha, Qingzhou has been peaceful for 100 years. What's the use of it? There must be a reason why Qingzhou hasn't fallen for thousands of years. Let's watch the Empress kill the enemy. The news snowballed and quietly spread throughout the entire Qingzhou. Qingzhou was in turmoil. However, no one was worried because they had been peaceful for thousands of years. Subconsciously, they thought that nothing would happen to Qingzhou. At this moment, the great Qing divine dynasty also received the news. Experts from all over gathered at the great Qing divine dynasty. Haha, after being quiet for decades, something finally happened. It's good that they're here. That's right. If this peace continues, I'm afraid my bones will rust. Is the Empress back? Where's the Grand Tutor? I heard that the Grand Tutor has returned and summoned many experts from the 9 states. In the majestic imperial city, calm voices sounded. They were not afraid at all. Instead, they were looking forward to it. Perhaps in their eyes, this internal strife would make their peaceful days even livelier. Everyone, the demon gang is here. Looking ahead, they saw a chariot rushing into the imperial city. It was Lin Zilong. At this moment, Lin Zilong's breathing was rapid. Thinking back to the previous scene, he still felt like he was dreaming. Too powerful, beyond imagination. However, the great Qing divine dynasty had gathered all the experts in Qingzhou. Big Brother and the Empress were also there. If that person dared to come, he was courting death. Just as he stepped into the imperial city, Lin Ling and the rest arrived. He stepped forward. Rumble. The towering city walls around the imperial city had all collapsed, and numerous figures slowly walked into the imperial city, heading towards the highest peak of the imperial city. Sir, where do you think this is? Some experts were furious. They did not expect that this person would dare to step on the great Qing divine dynasty. Bang. However, Lin Ling did not even look at these experts. He stepped forward. Bang. That expert exploded and died. One had to know that this person's strength was one of the top experts in the great Qing divine dynasty. However, it was only the power of one step. What a pity! After watching for so long, I didn't see a single familiar face. Sakura and the rest did not attack because there was no need for them to do so. Bang bang bang. Chapter 4740. Lin Ling walked forward step by step, forcing Lin Zilong to run towards the top of the city of Qing. The top of the city of Qing was the highest place in the entire state of Qing. It was also the place where the Empress worshipped the heavens. This was a huge platform with more than 10 incense burners. When Lin Ling and the rest arrived, there was only one person left on the platform, and that was Lin Zilong. Lin Zilong was at his wits' end. His face was pale as he gritted his teeth and stared at Lin Ling and the rest. Never in his wildest dreams would he have imagined that a man he had casually met on the streets would actually be so abnormally powerful. Whether he called for the 6 divisions or invited the elites of the state of Qing, he could not stop this man. This was the man that the Lady of Yixian liked? At this moment, he suddenly felt that compared to this man, he was like a toad. Most importantly, he had used all his strength to fight with this man, wanting to crush this man, but this man didn't even look at him from beginning to end. It was as if he did not want to fight with him and did not even see him as a worthy opponent. Don't worry, you won't die for now. At least, you won't die before you see the 3rd princess. I want to know what changed the 3rd princess. At this moment, Lin Ling said calmly. You will die when you see the Empress. Lin Zilong did not like the way Lin Ling spoke to him. He did not like being ignored like this. So powerful, now he's at the top of the city of Qing. These people are so much more powerful than those who appeared before. Don't worry, the Empress is just not here. If she returns, he won't be able to do anything. Outside the imperial city, many people were discussing. Ironically, Lin Ling was the hero of the state of Qing and a statue was erected in his honor. However, after so many years, the statue had long decayed and no one remembered Lin Ling. Even if there were, the Empress was the number one in the hearts of the people. Lin Ling was history. Who dares to cause trouble in my state of Qing? At this time, a phoenix arrived from the distance, pulling a palace behind it, arriving majestically. Behind the palace, there was a large number of powerful cultivators. It was as if they were the strongest cultivators in the 9 provinces. At this moment, they had arrived calmly. Their gazes were fixed on the city of Qing's peak and landed on Lin Ling. Their lips curled into disdainful smiles. In their opinion, such a young kid actually dared to cause havoc in Qingzhou. Was he courting death? These experts were indeed the top experts in the 9 regions. However, compared to the final world, they were still far inferior. They were people from 2 different worlds. Phoenix Palace slowly floated down, but it was very quiet. No one walked out. Tell me your name. Instead, a man's voice floated out. Very proud. It was as if Lin Ling and the others were not qualified to make the people in the palace come out. Only by announcing their names did they barely qualify. 3rd Princess, how arrogant. Grandma Wendao could not hold it in any longer and shouted. Lin Ling was the 3rd princess's master. When she met her master, the 3rd princess did not take the initiative to greet him. Instead, she wanted Lin Ling to greet her first. She could not help but shake her head. She could not understand how her close friend had become like this. Grandma Wendao? Aren't you dead? The woman's voice finally came out from the palace, with a hint of surprise. Soon after, the door to the palace was opened. The first person to walk out was a very handsome man. He wore a loose robe and his eyes were filled with wisdom. It was as if nothing in the world could escape from his grasp. After walking out, he glanced at Grandma Wendao indifferently. Of course, his gaze landed on Lin Ling. For some reason, the man felt a strong sense of hostility from Lin Ling. It was as if the appearance of this man had caused all the hard work he had put in all these years to go down the drain. Then he looked at his younger brother, Lin Zilong. Instantly, he felt that this man was indeed here to take everything away. In your dreams. The man laughed coldly. No one could take everything away from him. No one ever. This person probably had some background. However, he had already made sufficient preparations over the years. With these people, it was impossible. Then, another figure walked out from the palace. This person was a woman who looked to be in her 30s. She wore a phoenix robe and a phoenix crown. Her aura was like that of a mother of the world. Just her figure alone caused an uproar in Qingzhou. Countless people knelt down to worship her. After so many years, the Empress was already an omnipotent existence in the hearts of the people. She was also an existence that countless people worshipped. However, after the woman walked out, her cold gaze swept across the room. Suddenly, it landed on Lin Ling. Her pupils trembled. Her expression clearly changed. It was as if a dusty memory had been unlocked. The shadow that used to be omnipotent was now quietly returning to her memory. Us, Master. She cried out in surprise. The moment she said that, the world was shocked. Master? The Empress's master? Could it be that person in the legends? Some people regained their memories, but they were only vague memories. Now, in the entire Qingzhou, there were not many people who were familiar with Lin Ling and knew about Lin Ling. All of this was because of the 3rd princess. As the Empress, it was not difficult for her to rewrite history. Master? Lin Ling. Lin Qinglong and Lin Zilong knew this name. They knew even more about this person's abilities. They did not expect Lin Ling to return. The last time Lin Ling returned, they had just arrived in Qingzhou. However, at that time, Lin Ling came and left in a hurry. As a result, they did not see Lin Ling. Why did he come back? Is he here to take everything? Damn it, this person is really cunning. Now that Qingzhou is one of the best in Jiuzhou, he came back to reap the benefits. Lin Qinglong's eyes continued to flicker. He knew that the 3rd princess had an innate admiration for Lin Ling. If Lin Ling asked the third princess to hand over the position of Emperor Qing, all of this might not be impossible. However, Lin Qinglong quietly clenched his fist and a spiritual talisman appeared in his palm. This gave him a boost of confidence. Lin Ling wanted to take everything back? Dream on. Unfortunately, he did not know that with Lin Ling's current strength, he was not interested in the entire Jiuzhou, let alone Qingzhou. I am not your master. At this time, Lin Ling said calmly. He stared at the third princess and realized that there was an evil aura in the third princess's body that had blinded the third princess's heart. Then, with a flick of his finger, the divine power silently poured out and washed away the evil aura. At the same time, Lin Ling's heart was burning with anger. He did not know who was behind this, but this person had offended Lin Ling. This was also touching Lin Ling's reverse scale. Chapter 47-41. Master, this is a misunderstanding. The third princess hurriedly shook her head and suddenly looked at Grandma Wendao. Grandma Wendao, what did you say in front of Master? Why does Master misunderstand me so much? Obviously, she thought that Grandma Wendao was trying to sow discord. Hearing this, Grandma Wendao clenched her teeth and did not say anything. Master, don't listen to others trying to sow discord. All these years, under my leadership, Qingzhou has become stronger and stronger. I have sacrificed everything for Qingzhou. Seeing that Grandma Wendao did not dare to speak, the third princess looked at Lin Ling and said. Lin Ling also remained silent. Qingzhou has been in turmoil. In just a few hundred years, it has encountered wave after wave of calamity. However, every time a calamity came, I led the experts of Qingzhou to resist it. 30 years ago, evil cultivators appeared in Qingzhou, the third princess continued, but before she could finish, Lin Ling finally interrupted her. Enough. Enough. Previously, he saw that the third princess was blinded by evil energy, so he gave her a chance. However, he realized that the evil energy was just a growth aid. What really changed the third princess was the ambition in her heart. If there was no evil in her heart, no evil could invade. The third princess' ambition was to dominate Qingzhou and she did not want to share it with others. Therefore, her comrades who had fought side by side were all killed by her. Most importantly, the current Qingzhou was not the same as before. It was the divine prefecture that could not be underestimated. This aroused her desire to control. Not only did she want to control Qingzhou, she wanted to control the 9 prefectures. What's the use of saying so much? You should know my personality. Lin Ling said coldly. The third princess trembled. She did not know why, but she did not dare to look into Lin Ling's eyes. At this moment, she was also doubting herself. Was everything she had done all these years really right? Haha, Your Majesty, have you forgotten your original intention? Have you forgotten about your great ambitions? Some people only know how to reap the benefits of others. When they come back, they want to take everything from you. You may remember old feelings, but others will not. Suddenly, a loud laugh was heard. It was Lin Qinglong. Lin Qinglong looked at Lin Ling calmly and said, You are really despicable. You didn't come back earlier or later. You came back after Qingzhou had become a giant beast of the 9 states. Your goal is to take over Qingzhou. Do you really think everyone is blind? Moreover, you're shameless. His Majesty went through fire and water for Qingzhou and went through countless twists and turns. You didn't do anything and you actually have the nerve to come and seize Qingzhou? His voice was full of majesty, which made Sakura and the others stunned. Lin Ling wanted to seize Qingzhou. What a joke! Even though Qing province was indeed a giant beast of the 9 continents, if it wasn't for Lin Ling's protection back then, how could Qing province have grown to this day? Besides, would such a powerful god really take a liking to Qingzhou? Your Majesty, please wake up. You treat him like a master, but he only wants to use you. Lin Qinglong said again. His voice was loud and clear, and it spread throughout Qingzhou. Whispers could be heard all over Qingzhou. People also thought that Lin Ling was too shameless. The third princess stood on the same spot, and her eyes kept flickering. She glanced at Lin Qinglong, then at the countless experts behind him, and thought of everything she had done all these years. Finally, she raised her eyes and recovered her previous imposing manner as she looked at Lin Ling calmly. "Master, this is the last time I'll call you master. This is out of friendship. However, the peace of Qingzhou cannot be disturbed just because you are my master." Her voice had also become cold and indifferent. Now, she was no longer afraid of Lin Ling. Because it wasn't just her who was going against Lin Ling. It was the entire Qingzhou and even half of the 9 states. No matter how powerful Lin Ling was, could he fight against half of the 9 states? This was the third princess' confidence. "I'm giving you a chance because of our old friendship. Leave and never step into Qingzhou again. I'll pretend that nothing happened today." The third princess said again. "Because of our old friendship?" Lin Ling laughed. The third princess had been easy to talk to in the beginning because she was afraid of him. Why would she care about their old friendship? Even if the third princess really cared about their old friendship, she wouldn't have attacked Grandma Wen Dao and the others. "You've really changed. I don't know why you have the confidence to speak to me, but I'll find out who's behind this," Lin Ling said calmly. He looked at Lin Qinglong and the third princess and shook his head. "If you think that they can fight me, you're dreaming. Your Majesty, this is your master? You've given in to him time and time again, but what about him? He's still so overbearing." Hearing this, Lin Qinglong laughed coldly. A cold light immediately appeared in the third princess' eyes and her tone became even colder. "Lin Ling, if you don't leave, don't blame me. Old friendship is old friendship, but the world belongs to the world." "You're going to attack me?" Lin Ling laughed coldly. "It seems that you won't shed tears until you see the coffin." The third princess waved her arm gently. "I know that you're very powerful and rumor has it that you're a god. However, I'm also very curious about how powerful a real god is. Let me see the result of the battle between a god and the 9 states. Everyone to come out." As soon as she finished speaking, a large number of experts arrived. These experts came from the 9 states. They were all top experts in the 9 states. With the strength of these people, not to mention Qingzhou, even if they were placed in any place in the 9 provinces, they would still be considered overlords. Since when can the third princess summon so many experts? Grandma Wen Dao's expression changed. Yixian Nu frowned. She had seen many experts who were not weaker than her father. Although she heard that her father was no match for Lin Ling, there was more than one top expert here. "Lin Ling, you were famous in Qingzhou back then. You were the Emperor Qing behind Qingzhou. But now, you have surpassed your master. How can you understand everything that I control in the world I live in? Don't you think you are too inexperienced to take over Qingzhou?" Lin Ling said. The arrival of countless experts boosted the third princess's confidence and she shouted coldly. At this moment, she was more like the Empress of Qingzhou, dominating everything. Haha. However, at this moment Lin Ling laughed. This was the first time he laughed out loud since he came to Qingzhou. Haha. Sakura and the others couldn't help but laugh as well. Because they had been holding it in all this time, not because they were afraid of anything, but because they wanted to see what made the third princess so confident. The result told them that what made the third princess confident was the 9 states. "What are you laughing at?" Seeing Lin Ling and the others laughing wildly, the third princess suddenly frowned. Chapter 47-42. I am laughing. You used to be half a disciple of mine, but you are not my disciple. Lin Ling smiled proudly and looked at the third princess. I, Lin Ling, have taken in countless disciples. Which one of them doesn't know me? You are the weakest among all of my disciples, Lin Ling. You ask me why I am laughing? I'm laughing. Aren't you underestimating me? It's just Qingzhou, it's just Jiuzhou. Do you think I care about it? Forget about the 9 continents, I, Lin Ling, don't even care about this universe. Though Lin Ling's voice was soft, it was like an invisible wind that floated into everyone's ears. Everyone's pupils trembled. What arrogance! Perhaps you think that I'm trying to show off. Then I'll tell you why. It's because Qing province is nothing to me. Lin Ling looked into the distance and suddenly pointed his finger. Rumble. Something terrifying happened. The entire Qingzhou shook and then turned into dust. Countless people floated in the void as if they were in the universe. The land they were on had been reduced to ashes. However, not a single one of them died. What a terrifying power. To me, Qingzhou is just as this is a finger that can destroy the world. The 9 continents are nothing to me. Lin Ling looked into the distance and clenched his fist. Rumble. A deafening sound was heard. It was as if the heavens and earth were being split open. From afar, a pitch-black object was coming. It was majestic and it cut through the void. This was Crimson Continent. Then, the Tianzhou continent arrived. Yunzhou arrived. And the final world, Miao continent, arrived. The 9 continents gathered in Qingzhou. On top of the city of Qingzhou, everyone was shocked. Their pupils were trembling. Not just the 9 continents. To me, the 10,000 worlds are nothing. At this time, Lin Ling put one hand behind his back and drew a line in the sky with his right hand. It was an uncanny skill that reversed the universe. Countless stars flew over and circled in the sky. It was as if the world was spinning. These were the east, west, south, and north worlds. With a flip of Lin Ling's hand, the entire 9 prefectures void arrived. If he wanted to destroy the heavens, the earth, the 9 continents, and the universe, Lin Ling could do it with a flip of his hand. Oh my God, what kind of trick is this? That's my hometown, the eastern border. Even I was captured. Her Majesty's master is actually so powerful. Countless voices resounded in the sky. What was terrifying was that the entire 9 continents and millions of worlds were captured by Lin Ling, but not a single person died. This was even more proof of Lin Ling's terrifying methods. Looking at the 3rd princess again, her face was deathly pale. She thought that Lin Ling wanted to seize her Qingzhou, but Lin Ling told her that Qingzhou was just so. If Lin Ling really wanted to seize it, the 9 prefectures would be within his reach. As for the power she possessed and the powerhouses she controlled, all of this was but a strand of hair to Lin Ling. Boom. At this moment, her heart exploded. It was as if she didn't know Lin Ling anymore. She even felt ashamed of her short-sightedness. Master, what kind of trick is this? The 3rd princess asked anxiously. Her voice was once again filled with reverence. Lin Ling looked down at the 3rd princess and said disdainfully, "Because I'm a god." The god. As soon as he said this, the cultivators of the 9 prefectures finally knew what a god's trick was. All this time, they had heard of gods and the 4 great gods. However, how could they, as mortals, know what a god's trick was? At the end of the day, they entered the Tao through martial arts. Even if their martial arts were divine, they were still not true gods. In addition, hundreds of years had passed. After the 4 great gods entered the Tao realm, the legends of the gods gradually turned into rumors. No one thought that a god could be so terrifying. Even more so, they didn't think that Lin Ling was a true god. What was ironic was that they actually thought that a powerful god was actually trying to snatch their territory. Back then, if it weren't for my protection, Qingzhou wouldn't have grown into one of the top divine lands in the 9 prefectures. Back then, if it weren't for me stopping the foreign enemies, you would only have to deal with the internal strife. Qingzhou would have changed a long time ago. Everything that I, Lin Ling, did was not to dominate. It was to give my friends a peaceful home. Lin Ling looked at the void and said calmly. The void was silent. Everyone in the 9 prefectures stared at the most powerful man in the 9 prefectures for a long time. The 3rd princess was at a loss. Now, she realized that all the hard work she had done over the years was not worth mentioning in front of Lin Ling. Literally, Grandma Wendao looked at Lin Ling in shock. She never thought that her close friend would grow to such a level. Omnipotent. Splitting the heavens and splitting the earth. This was the current Lin Ling. Ah, what a powerful god, what a powerful god. Lin Ling, I admit that you're terrifying and powerful, but so what? Don't think that we haven't seen the world. Let me tell you, I've seen gods before. Suddenly, Lin Qinglong roared. Then he looked at the 3rd princess and said, Your Majesty, I admit that after I came here, I continuously bewitched you to dominate the 9 states. I even secretly attacked you and stimulated your ambition. I have harmed you in this regard. But I can tell you that I, Lin Qinglong, truly love you. I can't tolerate my woman being bullied by others. Even if that person used to be your master, I won't allow it. Lin Qinglong strode forward. Seeing this, the third princess's dark eyes suddenly burned with a fiery flame. It was as if she had seen the final light. She couldn't lose. She couldn't afford to lose. But she still had Lin Qinglong. Lin Ling, right? Don't think that gods are so great. Let me tell you, the real gods have arrived today. After Lin Qinglong nodded to the third princess, he looked at Lin Ling proudly and said, "The real gods come from ancient times. They are the ones who can change the heavens and defy fate. You, on the other hand, are just a lowly god. If you have the ability, wait for me. I've been waiting for you." Lin Ling looked at Lin Qinglong calmly and said, he had long known that these 2 dragons were not simple. Now, he wanted to see who was behind all this. Lin Qinglong, why did you call me here? Also, why did the heavens and earth change? Get lost. At this moment, a majestic voice came from afar. Rays of light shone brightly and thousands of auspicious colors. When these lights appeared, the entire world seemed to be brighter. Many people felt incomparably peaceful. God. Another god. Everyone had an illusion in their hearts. When they looked up, they were shocked to find that Yun Prefecture was beginning to retreat. Spirit Prefecture was also retreating. Finally, it was Miao Prefecture. Moreover, the 10,000 realms were also retreating. Previously, Lin Ling could stir up the 9 prefectures with just a finger. Chapter 47-43. Lin Ling, you're not a god. Lin Qinglong and Lin Zilong were so excited that their bodies trembled. It was as if they had encountered the most exciting moment of their lives. They knew Lin Ling's origin. He came from a small world in the north. He had become a god by accumulating countless amounts of luck. However, the person who came was a true god. It was said that he came from the core of the era, the chaotic realm. Could Lin Ling compare to him? At this moment, countless drops of dew fell and nourished the earth. Green State was restored to its original state. The martialists in Qingzhou also felt their cultivation levels rising at this moment. What a powerful god! Countless people knelt down, their eyes full of reverence. Lin Ling was a destroyer, but the person who came was a creator. Without a doubt, creation was more difficult than destruction. Who are you? How dare you destroy the world in front of me? Tell me your name. If I don't know your sect, don't blame me for being rude. Before the person arrived, his majestic voice floated to the top of Green City. This made the eyes of the third princess burn. She saw the dawn of victory. Lin Qinglong and Lin Zilong laughed. However, they did not dare to laugh out loud for fear of disturbing the god. At the same time, a palace appeared at the top of Green City. The palace was magnificent and there were 2 children standing there. It was a majestic sight. As for Lin Ling, he looked at the palace with indifference, then sneered. Boom! He punched out. The palace shook and then cracks appeared. Boom! Another punch was thrown. The palace exploded. An old man appeared in front of Lin Ling. This old man had the demeanor of a sage. He held a whisk in his hand and his face was full of disbelief. His cultivation was at the mid-stage of the middle deity realm. Such strength was indeed impressive in the 9 states, but it was nothing in front of Lin Ling. If Lin Ling dared to call himself a god, this person was not qualified to be a god. How dare you? The old man shouted angrily and finally looked at Lin Ling. However, his expression changed instantly. It's you. Oh my god, why are you here? A sharp voice rang out, shocking the 9 provinces. The old man took a step back. His face was filled with fear. He clearly knew Lin Ling. Most importantly, everyone saw that the god who had suddenly appeared was trembling, and his eyes were filled with panic and fear. Lin Ling, on the other hand, didn't recognize this person. He shook his head and asked, "Are you the person who is stirring up chaos in the 9 provinces?" He took a step forward and disappeared on the spot. When he reappeared, he was already in front of the old man and punched out. Boom! The old man was smashed into the ground below the Azure City by the fist. However, Lin Ling quickly disappeared again. Next, the entire Azure province was in turmoil, and dust soared into the sky. Amidst the rumbling, a groan could be heard. Lin Ling, stop fighting. I'm the god of White Mountain. I'm the god of White Mountain. By Shan? That's by Shan. His domineering voice was like thunder, exploding in everyone's ears. The martial artists of the 9 prefectures were dumbfounded. Third Princess was dumbfounded. Lin Qinglong and his brother were dumbfounded. That god was from the Chaos Realm, and Lin Ling was just a local cultivator. In front of that god, Lin Ling was not qualified to be called a god. However, the result was that the god from the Chaos Realm was now beaten like a dog. Most importantly, he clearly knew Lin Ling and was even more afraid of Lin Ling. So, who was the real god now? In fact, they didn't know that this person happened to come from Lingxiao City and witnessed Lin Ling fighting against the superior god, Chongqing Heavenly Emperor. How could he fight against such strength? Moreover, he would never have thought that Lin Ling would come back to the 9 provinces. Wasn't Lin Ling in the Dao realm? In the end, the dust dispersed. People saw Lin Ling holding the old man's neck with one hand and lifting him up high. This is not the Dao realm. Don't think that the protection of the Dao realm will work in my hands. Lin Ling looked coldly at the old man and said, Speak. Why are you here? I can't speak. The old man clenched his teeth and faced death with equanimity. I admire people with a strong backbone the most. Since you won't speak, I'll give you a quick death. Killing intent appeared in Lin Ling's eyes. However, as soon as he finished speaking, the old man anxiously said, Don't. I'll talk. It's the 8 gods' heavenly palace. We found it and gathered a large number of gods. 8 gods' celestial palace? Lin Ling's eyes flashed and he nodded. In fact, he wasn't surprised at all. When he saw this old man, he already had his guesses. As for why the old man wanted to attack Qingzhou, there was no doubt that he wanted to borrow the 3rd princess hand. Find the 8 gods' celestial palace. Although the 3rd princess' strength couldn't compare to a god, she still controlled half of the 9 provinces. Naturally, she would find the 8 gods' celestial palace faster than outsiders like them. But after receiving confirmation, Lin Ling's killing intent surged out. You said you wouldn't kill me. The old man also felt a large hand caressing his soul, as if it had absorbed everything he knew. I said I'd give you a quick death. I didn't say I wouldn't kill you. A powerful divine power erupted. Under countless gazes, the previously omnipotent god's neck was crushed. Bang! When the corpse fell to the ground, the 9 provinces fell silent. Who was the real god? Now it was clear at a glance. Plop! Lin Qinglong and Lin Zilong sat on the ground powerlessly. The confidence in their hearts had been crushed by Lin Ling. They thought they controlled everything, but now they realized that in the face of absolute power, everything was like paper. Only power was eternal. Looking at the 3rd princess, her face was ashen. The hope that had been born before had been crushed by Lin Ling. Only now did she know what kind of limit Lin Ling had reached. This was the limit of transcending the universe. Ma master! The 3rd princess shouted with mixed feelings. On the ground, Lin Ling walked up slowly to the 3rd princess and looked down at her. Bits and pieces of the 3rd princess's past rushed into Lin Ling's mind like a tide. Now, you regret it, Lin Ling said softly. His voice suddenly became gentler. I regret it. The 3rd princess finally cried. She no longer had the domineering aura of an empress. She was like a lost little girl, only confused and helpless. I, Lin Ling, have taken in countless disciples in my life. I think I've treated them well, but you're the first one who dared to go against me. Lin Ling said again. Master, I was wrong. The 3rd princess kowtowed to Lin Ling. Now she knew even more clearly that she could not go against someone who had become her master. No matter what big waves she stirred up, Her master had helped her achieve everything, so she could take back everything. It's no use apologizing. I have to give them an explanation. Lin Ling sighed and pointed out with his finger. The third princess's body burst into flames, and she could do nothing to resist. She could only weep as she watched herself gradually disappear. Any grand plans she had were now gone with the wind. Chapter 47-44. Watching the Empress gradually disappear, the entire world fell silent. Especially the martial artists of Qingzhou. Their eyes were trembling. The Empress, whom they had always thought to be omnipotent, had died just like that. Dead. Lin Qinglong and Lin Zilong sat on the ground powerlessly. Their faces were pale and ashen. Only now did they realize how powerful Lin Ling was. He was so powerful that they felt dazzled when they looked up at him. Do you think you have the right to fight me just because you have the help of a god? Lin Ling walked toward Lin Qinglong and Lin Zilong. Are gods really that powerful? You come from the north, your identity is ordinary, and you're not even a reincarnated god. Why are you so powerful? Lin Qinglong looked up at Lin Ling and said through gritted teeth. He had 10,000 questions in his heart, and he really wanted to know the answer. In fact, many gods in the Tao realm wanted to know the answer as well. I know we're definitely going to die, so I just want to die knowing the answer. Tell me, what are you relying on? Lin Qinglong asked again. Lin Ling walked forward step by step and looked down at Lin Qinglong. He then shook his head and said, Do I have to answer you just because you want to know? You're not worthy. After saying that, he pointed out with his finger. The first to die was Lin Zilong. His body exploded, and even his soul was turned into ashes. Against Lin Ling, even if Lin Zilong used all his skills, it was useless. I'm not worthy? Lin Qinglong looked up with a ferocious expression. Was God so noble to such an extent? Even if he died, why didn't he let him die knowing the answer? Even if I tell you, how would you understand the world I live in? Lin Ling finally said it. Although he did not answer Lin Zilong directly, he stated the truth. The difference between Lin Ling and Lin Qinglong's worlds was too great. Boom! Lin Ling pointed out with his finger. Lin Qinglong's body exploded, and even his soul was gradually dissipating. From now on, I won't care about Qingzhou anymore. You guys, take care of yourselves. After dealing with Lin Ling and Lin Qinglong, Lin Ling looked at the entire Qingzhou road and left with Grandma Wendao and the others. He's leaving. As they watched Lin Ling and the others leave, countless Qing prefecture cultivators had mixed feelings. At this moment, they finally understood that the reason why Qing province was safe all these years was not because of the Empress, but because of this man. Because of this man's protection, no one dared to invade Qing province. However, they were too short-sighted and had been bewitched by the Empress. They had always thought that the Empress had protected Qingzhou. Only after the man left did they feel like they had lost the most important thing. This was because Qing province's glory was definitely gone. In less than 100 years, they would once again return to their weakest state. How pitiful! You don't know how lucky you are. In my opinion, they deserve it. Qingzhou has been prosperous for hundreds of years, and every dog has its day. It's their turn to be unlucky. However, it turns out that the mastermind behind Qingzhou is a deity. He's too powerful. In the distance, the martial artists from other divine lands were discussing. Those voices were not soft, and without a doubt, it made the faces of the Qing province cultivators even more gloomy. Shaoli, are you really going to ignore Qingzhou? Grandma Wendao could not help but ask as she left with Lin Ling. She had lived in Qingzhou for many years and had feelings for this place. The Qingzhou of today is no longer the Qingzhou of the past. Let's do what we have to do. Lin Ling smiled and shook his head. Grandma Wendao sighed. She knew that Lin Ling had completely given up on Qingzhou. However, Lin Ling's words made sense. The Qingzhou of today was no longer the Qingzhou of the past. Their old friends had long disappeared with the wind. All that was left were strangers. Grandma Wendao, Lady Yi, go to the void where Lei Gong's great hall is. Lin Ling said again. Lin Ling, I'm not going. I'd better go back to Miaozhou. Yi City is my hometown after all. Lady Yi said immediately. Then she saw Lin Ling looking at her suspiciously. She smiled and said, "Don't worry. It's been so many years since my father was the city lord of Yi City. There aren't many people who still remember this. I should be fine if I go back to my hometown. How about this, Lin Ling? I'll go to Miaozhou with Lady Yi. We can take care of each other." Grandma Wendao said. Lin Ling pondered for a moment and finally nodded and said, "All right then. However, if you encounter something that you can't solve, immediately inform Lei Gong's Great Hall. I have a jade talisman here that can directly inform Lei Gong's Great Hall. In less than an hour, an expert will arrive at Miaozhou." "Thank you," Lady Yi said gratefully. Grandma Wendao looked at Lin Ling reluctantly and said, "Xiao Li, come back and visit us when you're free. Grandma doesn't ask you to accompany me. Just accompany me for a few words is enough." "Grandma Wendao, I promise you. As long as I'm free, I'll accompany you to talk." Lin Ling nodded heavily and then left with Sakura and the others. Looking at Lin Ling's back, Grandma Wendao sighed in her heart. Now, Lin Ling's height was not only something she had to look up to, but also something she couldn't understand. God, omnipotent. Xiao Li has become a true god. It's our fortune to still remember us mortals. Grandma Wendao smiled and said, "Perhaps this is Lin Ling." Lady Yi nodded. Ordinary gods wouldn't care about the life and death of mortals, let alone their former friends. However, Lin Ling would. No matter how strong he became, he didn't change at all. At this moment, Lin Ling brought Sakura and the others to Lei Gong's Great Hall. Previously, I searched that old man's soul and knew that the 8 gods' heavenly palace had been found. Moreover, there were many experts dispatched this time. Lin Ling said to Sakura and the others, "Big brother, for this trip to the 8 gods' heavenly palace, you guys can stay in Lei Gong's Great Hall and take care of Lei Gong's Great Hall. What do you think?" Alright. Although Sakura and the others wanted to go to the 8 gods' heavenly palace, they knew that with their strength, it would be difficult to enter. If things went wrong, they might become Lin Ling's burden. After a long time, Lin Ling and the others returned to the Great Hall of Lei Gong. Lin Ling didn't say much and called Xingyi, Nanwufenyu Treasure God, White Water Pure Maiden, and the others over. Then, he roughly told them what happened in the 9 prefectures. Hearing this, everyone nodded and agreed to go to the 8 gods' heavenly palace. Lin Ling said again, "For this trip, the few of you will come with me. Giant Ghost, you've always wanted to return to the 8 gods' heavenly palace. Today, I'll bring you back." "All right." Giant Ghost let out a low voice, but one could see that he was incomparably excited. Returning to the 8 gods' heavenly palace, this matter had been delayed for a long time. He wanted to go back all the time. "Let's set off immediately." Following this, Lin Ling brought everyone out of Lei Gong's Great Hall. Chapter 47-45. According to the old man's memories, Lin Ling flew towards the void of the 9 prefectures. 2 hours later, they appeared in the eastern border. In the void of the eastern border, there was a huge floating continent. This continent was so vast that it was no smaller than the Green Prefecture. On the continent, there was a huge ancient tree. The ancient tree was magnificent, bigger than a mountain. Even though Lin Ling had traveled all over the Divine Lands and had seen many things, this was the first time he had seen such a huge tree. This tree could be called the World Tree. Under the magnificent tree, there was a huge hole. This hole was so huge that it could fit a city. From time to time, large amounts of soil would float out as if someone was digging a hole. Could it be that the 8 gods' celestial palace is in that tree hole? Beside him, White Water Pure Maiden guessed. This continent is not from the void of the 9 prefectures. I don't know where it came from, but it seems to have many taboos. I guess the 8 gods' celestial palace is indeed in that tree hole. The giant ghost nodded. He had sensed something. The 8 gods' celestial palace has always been untraceable. I didn't expect it to appear under that huge tree. Lin Ling sighed. When he was still Li Xiaoyao, he had explored the 8 gods' celestial palace. In addition, in this life, Lin Ling had explored the entire 8 gods' celestial palace many times. However, he still hadn't reached the end. However, Lin Ling had a feeling that he would reach the end this time. So many experts. Treasure god Nan Wufengyu suddenly pointed to the side of the huge tree. At the side of the huge tree, divine light filled the air. Spirit energy, demonic energy, and underworld energy were vast and mighty. Many gods had gathered. Many of them were unfamiliar to Lin Ling, but he could see that they were extremely powerful. Of course, there were also many familiar faces. For example, Lord Ning of the Spirit Nation and even the great gods of the Spirit Nation were there. Moreover, Taoist Duobao was also there. There seemed to be gods in the underworld as well. In addition, the 12 ancestral shamans who had enmity with Lin Ling, Chong Liang and Tian Wu were also there. One of them was the ancestral shaman of thunder, and the other was the witch of the wind. Most importantly, their strength had reached the mid-stage of the mid-stage. One had to know that the last time they met, their strength was not strong. Now, in a short period of time, their strength had increased greatly. He was indeed one of the 12 grand wizards. If he was given more time, he would definitely be able to restore his power as a grand wizard. The people of this world are really useless. I refined 1 billion people in the North Territory, and now I only got a strand of pot water. It's too little. Be content. This is Jiuzhou, an extremely weak universe. It's your fortune to be able to enter this place. That's right. Once you obtain the treasures of the 8 gods' heavenly palace, you can kill everyone here. So what? They were the gods from the Chaos realm. As for the great gods of Spirit Nation and the rest, they were all silent and had their own ulterior motives. I've heard that there are many gods in this universe, and they have all entered the Tao realm. We're wreaking havoc in their homeworld. If they find out, they won't let us off. Suddenly, a god laughed. They're just minor gods. It's their fortune that we can come to their homeworld. Even if they know that we're wreaking havoc here, what can they do? They should go to the Chaos realm and ask about my name, Taoist Kai Hu. Taoist Kai Hu, you're thinking too much. The gods of this universe have probably never been to the Chaos realm. Are you kidding me? How dare you call yourself a god when you haven't been to the Chaos realm? More and more voices were heard. In the end, many gods shook their heads in disdain. Most of them were from the Chaos realm, so they naturally did not care about the minor gods of other universes. What a fierce god! In the distance, Saint Guy saw this scene and could not help but laugh coldly. Lin Ling also nodded coldly. When he thought of Qingzhou and the dead third young master, his heart was filled with hostility. These gods thought that they were from the Chaos realm, and that the gods of other universes were like ants. If that was the case, he might as well kill them all. The void of Jiuzhou was Lin Ling's territory. Whoever behaved atrociously here, Lin Ling would not be lenient. However, just as Lin Ling was deep in thought, a chuckle sounded. You must be the minor gods of this universe. Your strength seems very ordinary. Come over, I'm from the Chaos realm. My shoes are dirty. Help me wipe them. An old man suddenly stared at Lin Ling and the others. In fact, many gods had already seen Lin Ling and the others, but they were too lazy to pay attention to them at first. The old man's voice was calm, but when he said the words, Chaos realm, his voice quietly became louder. It was as if he was telling Lin Ling and the others where they came from. The Chaos realm was the core of the current universe and the core of the era. It gathered the strongest gods of all the eras. Therefore, they had the right to be arrogant. This again? Wipe their shoes? When we went to the Sky 3 Mysteries universe, Kai Hu Taoist also made others wipe his shoes. Now he's doing this again. I remember, the minor gods of that universe were resisting. In the end, all the gods of that universe were obliterated. If these people know what's good for them and wipe their shoes obediently, they might have a chance to live. If they're stubborn, they'll suffer. The other gods said one after another. The gods of the Spirit Kingdom also looked at Lin Ling. Their eyes were cold, but more than that, they were gloating. They naturally knew how arrogant these gods from the Chaos Realm were. If they did not have the support of the great gods of the Spirit Kingdom, they would not be able to escape the fate of suffering. Now, they could watch Lin Ling and the others embarrass themselves. If things went wrong, Lin Ling and the others might even be killed. You want me to wipe your shoes? At this moment, Lin Ling looked coldly at Kai Hu Taoist. He had wanted to attack before, but who knew that Kai Hu Taoist would provoke him first? Are you deaf? I don't want to say the same thing twice. Kai Hu Taoist said coldly. His right foot was already in front of him, indicating for Lin Ling to wipe his shoes. Okay, wipe my shoes. Lin Ling nodded and walked over step by step, as expected of a god from a small universe. You're scared after a little scare. But do you think you can just wipe your shoes and be done with it? You think too highly of yourself. Hee, if you're that cheap, you're not Kai Hu Taoist. When the gods saw Lin Ling walking over, they thought that Lin Ling was going to wipe his shoes. They crossed their arms and waited for a good show. As for Kai Hu Taoist, he touched his chin and said indifferently, by the way, after you wipe my shoes, lick the soles of my shoes. I'll only let you go after you're done. Lick the soles of his shoes? Lin Ling's eyes turned even colder. His footsteps were no longer slow. He suddenly took a large stride and appeared directly in front of Kai Hu Taoist. Then he threw out a punch. Boom! There was a roar and the void shook. Then, there was an explosion. Kai Hu Taoist was sent flying by Lin Ling's punch. Fortunately, he was from the Chaos Realm and was not weak. Otherwise, he would have been killed by that punch. Let me tell you, I know as many gods as there are hairs on an ox. I even know many late-stage mid-gods, let alone mid-stage mid-gods. Taoist Kai Hu roared angrily again, his face filled with fury. Late-stage mid-god? Lin Ling looked down at Taoist Kai Hu, the anger in his eyes intensified. Do you know why I'm attacking you? You probably don't want this universe to be destroyed by me, so you dare to attack me, a god from the primal chaos realm. Taoist Kai Hu gritted his teeth. No, you're wrong. Lin Ling shook his head coldly. The reason why I'm attacking you is not because of this universe, because you can't destroy it, but because you've humiliated me twice. The first time, you actually asked me to clean your shoes. Do you know the consequences of your words? The second time, you actually said late-stage mid-god in front of me. You think a late-stage mid-god can kill me? You're dreaming. I've already killed many late-stage mid-gods. Don't use late-stage mid-gods to humiliate me. Lin Ling's voice was like the might of the heavens, causing Taoist Kai Hu to tremble in fear. A mid-stage mid-god had come to kill this kid. Was this a humiliation to the latter? Could it be that only by sending a high god would it not be considered a humiliation, but an equal strength? Arrogant. Too arrogant. The gods from the primal chaos realm also understood the meaning of Lin Ling's words, and their eyes were all trembling. Taoist Kai Hu gritted his teeth, wanting to say something. Boom. However, Lin Ling had already punched. It looked like a simple punch, but it was like the laws of the universe, carrying with it endless divine power. Boom. Taoist Kai Hu's head exploded like a watermelon from the punch. A god from the primal chaos realm had fallen here. Killed by a god from a small universe. Silence. The entire continent suddenly quieted down. Only the giant tree swayed slightly with the sound of swaying leaves. All the gods looked at Lin Ling, their eyes filled with disbelief. Let me tell you, this is my territory. I don't care if you're from the bastard world or the dog egg world. If you're a dragon, you'll have to be a snake for me. If you're a tiger, you'll have to be a dog for me. After throwing away Taoist Kai Hu's corpse, Lin Ling looked coldly at the gods. Seeing them was like seeing Qingzhou. Although the third princess's death was mostly due to herself, external factors were also a part of the reason. Lin Ling had always been protective and had always treated the third princess as half his disciple. After killing the third princess, he looked calm, but his heart was naturally not calm. Now that he saw this group of high and mighty gods, his anger seemed to be ignited. As the first god of the void of the 9 prefectures, if he did not stand up now, who would? The dignity of the void of the 9 prefectures could not be blasphemed by others. Your Excellency, you killed Taoist Kai Hu. All of a sudden, a man slowly walked out. He held a jade flute in his hand. He did not look very old, about 20 years old. However, his strength was not weak at all. He was a late-stage mid-god expert. Previously, you said that a late-stage mid-god would challenge you and that it would be a humiliation to you. Isn't that a little too arrogant? The man said again. Arrogant? I don't think so. Lin Ling looked coldly at the man. The flames in his eyes burned brighter. It seemed that killing Taoist Kai Hu was not enough to make these gods take him seriously. Since killing the chicken to warn the monkeys did not work, then he would kill one to warn the rest. He would kill another late-stage mid-god. Your Excellency, I can sense anger and murderous intent in your eyes. But let me give you a word of advice. Don't do anything useless, and don't try to provoke my anger, because the price you'll pay will be great. The man's expression was still calm, but he had his own dignity. I don't know where you've been, and I don't know where you've come from. But I can tell you that the heights I've reached are beyond your imagination. I can also tell you that the gods I've met in my life are beyond your imagination. Of course, the god of war among men, he actually said so much to a minor god. Could it be that he wants to persuade this minor god to surrender? You're all wrong. When the god of war among men started talking, he probably already had murderous intent. Although he was only a late-stage mid-god, he had the right to be proud. He was obviously much stronger than the late-stage mid-god Lin Ling had killed. Not bad. Lin Ling shouted in a low voice, and Pangu Strike was activated, splitting the earth. The power of God was invincible. Rumble. Countless people watched as the terrifying sword landed on Lin Ling's body. However, Lin Ling reached out with one hand and grabbed the sacred sword. Moreover, Lin Ling's power of 5,000 strands erupted, and the sacred sword in his hand emitted cracking sounds. How is this possible? The war god of men roared. Using a divine bone as a sword and tempering it for several eras is indeed very powerful. However, in my opinion, this is just a piece of scrap metal. Lin Ling held the sword with one hand, and the other hand fiercely slashed out, splitting the sky. Similarly, a power that could sever the universe erupted and collided with the Sky Splitter Sacred Bone Sword. This slash seemed to only have the power of 40 million worlds, but it contained a power that did not exist in this world. This was the power of Pangu. I am the master of my universe. Anyone who dares to behave atrociously here will be killed without mercy. Today, I will kill you to establish my might. Lin Ling shouted. When he slashed down, he actually broke the Sky Splitter Sacred Bone Sword. Countless gods gasped. The Sky Splitter Sacred Bone Sword was the trump card of the war god of men. After so many years, apart from the superior gods, who could compete with it? However, it was now broken by a late-stage mid-god god. Heavens! This was too inconceivable. Looking at the war god of men again, his pupils were trembling and filled with disbelief. Who is this person? Why is his power so terrifying? The void of the 9 prefectures, the void of the 9 prefectures, where is this place? He knew that there were many world will hosts here, but he did not expect that apart from the world will hosts, the gods here were also so powerful. Bang! While he was still in shock, a big hand reached out and suddenly grabbed the neck of the war god of men. The war god of men tried to struggle and continuously attacked, but he could not harm Lin Ling at all. This also made the war god of men realize that this god was almost invincible. He was not afraid of the enormous divine energy at all. War god of men, right? Let me tell you, I have defeated many of your 5 war gods. There is the war god of Earth and the war god of South Pole. You are just the next one. Moreover, you are very unlucky because this is not the Tao realm. Without the protection of the Tao realm, you will die without a doubt. Lin Ling said coldly. You dare to kill me? I am a late-stage mid-god god. The war god of men gritted his teeth. The majesty of the ancient era made him unable to lower his head. Haha. Lin Ling laughed heartily. He looked at the countless gods on the continent and said calmly, "Are you stupid? I've already said that I've defeated quite a few of the 5 gods of war. As for late-stage mid-gods, I've killed quite a few of them. You'll be the next one." As soon as he finished speaking, a terrifying divine energy burst out and grabbed the neck of the war god of men. Bang! In the pitch-black void of the continent, bright blood fireworks bloomed. The neck of the war god of men was crushed. Moreover, without the protection of the Tao realm, he couldn't be more dead. With this death, all the gods subconsciously trembled. Whether they knew Lin Ling or not, their expressions became incomparably fearful. To kill a late-stage mid-god so easily, this Lin Ling was really terrifying. What exactly did he go through in the Tao realm? The great god of Spirit Nation looked extremely ferocious. Now, he had completely transformed into a human. His entire body was white and his facial features were handsome and demonic. He thought that his strength had greatly increased and that when he faced the gods of the 9 continents again, these gods were just ants. However, he thought too highly of himself. Ever since Lin Ling entered the Tao realm, he was like a fish in water. The increase in his strength could be described as thousands of times. Now, he didn't even have the confidence to kill Lin Ling. Last time on the path of domination, he killed a mid-god from the underworld. How long has it been? Now, even a late-stage mid-god is no match for him. Lord Ning clenched his fists fiercely. His expression was full of unwillingness. This was because he had just walked out of the miasma. Facing a mid-god, he still had to look up to them, let alone kill them. This made him unable to understand. Because Lin Ling had the same origin as him, why was his growth so terrifying? What exactly did Lin Ling rely on? Chapter 47-48. The entire continent was silent. Only the huge ancient tree was swaying slightly, and soil would rush out from the hole from time to time. It was as though someone was still digging for soil in the depths of the hole. All the gods did not dare to move. This display of power let them know the strength of the void gods of the 9 prefectures. The pupils of Ancestor of Lightning Wu Qiangliang and Witch of the Wind Tian Wu were also trembling. Lin Ling was too strong, so strong that they had to look up to him. They remembered that in the past, Lin Ling was like an ant to them. "Hide, where are you hiding?" But at this moment, a cold shout was heard. Lin Ling was already looking at Ancestor of Lightning and Tian Wu Qiangliang. When this voice fell, the hearts of the two trembled violently. They did not expect that Lin Ling would target them. "Lei Gong Lin Ling, what are you trying to do?" Ancestor of Lightning Wu Qiangliang forced himself to be calm, but his flickering pupils had already betrayed him. This showed that he was panicking. "I remember that in the sacred mountain of the Tao realm, you chased after me with Emperor Shun and the others. Now, you ask me what I am trying to do?" Lin Ling said indifferently. Then he looked at Witch of the Wind Tian Wu. "And you, I remember that before the Tao realm was opened, you were opposing us 4 great gods. What happened in the past was a misunderstanding. We have no enmity with you." Ancestor of Lightning Wu Qiangliang gritted his teeth. When he said this, his heart was filled with shame. Because he was actually begging for mercy from a junior. Despicable. But if he did not beg for mercy, Lin Ling would definitely not let him go. "We indeed have no enmity with each other. But in the past, you saw that I was weak, so you did not put me in your eyes. If you wanted to kill me, you killed me. But now I am stronger than you. If I want to kill you, I don't need a reason." Lin Ling said each word with a pause, appearing incomparably domineering. "If I want to kill you, I will kill you. There is no need for a reason. We are the most ancient 12 ancestors of sorcery. If you hadn't reincarnated, how could you be our opponent?" The Witch of the Wind gritted his teeth and said, "Haha, are you guys stupid? You're talking about your origins and predecessors with me. I just want to ask you, who's stronger now?" Lin Ling laughed sarcastically and walked towards the 2 grand wizards. Seeing Lin Ling walking over in a domineering manner, The pupils of the two ancestral sorcerers trembled again. They understood what Lin Ling meant. Even if you are the oldest ancient giant god, if you don't have the strength now, you are living a life worse than a dog. The two grand shamans looked at each other and knew that if they did not resist, they would be killed by Lin Ling. If they took the initiative to attack, they could take advantage of Lin Ling's carelessness to turn defeat into victory. Rumble. However, just as the ancestral shaman of lightning was about to attack Lin Ling, a giant pagoda descended from the sky, suppressing the heavens and earth. Donghuang Bell. It was Senki. Puchi. The ancestral shaman of lightning couldn't block the Donghuang Bell and was suppressed in the void. His body twitched and couldn't resist at all. Furthermore, he became weaker and weaker as his vitality dimmed. How pitiful! The ancestral shaman god whose name shook the era was actually stepped on by two juniors after reincarnating and easily killed. This also meant that the era was changing and anything could happen. Donghuang Bell. The gods gasped again. It was the first time for many of them to see the Donghuang Bell. They never expected that the person who came with the youth would be so strong. Qiangliang. Tianwu roared. His eyes were red as he wanted to save the ancestral shaman of lightning, Wu Qiangliang. However, just as he moved, a sword arrived and blocked in front of him. No matter how fast he exploded and moved like the wind, he still couldn't get rid of the sword. The sword was blood red and had a huge body. It emitted a murderous aura and was the most terrifying sword Tian Wu had ever seen in his life. That was because the sword came from Lin Ling. You'd better take care of yourself. Lin Ling looked indifferently at the Witch of the Wind, Tian Wu, and said, Lei Gong Lin Ling, I'm sure that your origin isn't small. Otherwise, you wouldn't have grown so fast. Tian Wu, accept my defeat today. What I'm most unwilling to accept is that other than the body of the world's will, there's still such a terrifying god in the void of Jiuzhou. If I had known this, I would have been more careful that day. Tian Wu's face was ashen. He knew that his time was up. I can only say that your eyesight isn't very good. Today, I'll kill you to establish my might. Lin Ling nodded. Without any nonsense, he slashed out with the tyrant's song. Rumble. Violent winds exploded. Tian Wu died, and endless ancient hurricanes poured in all directions. Tian Wu. Under the Donghuang Bell, Qiangliang watched as his close friend of many years died. Tears of blood flowed out of his eyes. In the end, he was also killed by the Donghuang Bell. Two of the most ancient ancestral shamans had fallen here. It should be known that if these two ancestral shamans were to grow, they would definitely step into the ranks of the higher gods. Unfortunately, their growth speed was not as fast as Lin Ling's. In the end, they could not escape the rolling wheel of time. This is the fourth god. As long as these gods had strength and origin, they were all powerful. However, they are all dead. These people are too strong. The void of Jiuzhou is his territory. Therefore, he killed the gods to establish his might. However, establishing his might is indeed terrifying. However, establishing his might is one thing. He killed 4 gods in a row, and he did it right in front of us. Isn't he looking down on us too much? Sounds of discussion rang out quietly. Most of the gods were wary of Lin Ling, but there were also 1 or 2 who were unwilling to accept this. These gods who were unwilling to accept this were incomparably famous in the past. They had devoured the incense of the mortal world, and had long developed an arrogance that looked down on everyone. Of course, although they were unwilling, they were not stupid enough to attack immediately. Their gazes subconsciously looked at the hole in the ground. At this moment, the hole had suddenly stopped spewing out soil. Look, those gods are paying attention to this place. That's great. This means that these minor gods have incurred the wrath of the gods. Therefore, they have stopped excavating the 8 godly celestial palace. With them stepping in, this guy called Lin Ling is still alive. The eyes of all the gods lit up. Why don't we join forces and kill them? This way, we might be able to obtain the praise of those higher gods and have a chance of entering the 8 godly celestial palace. I think that's a good idea. After all, Excavating the 8 godly celestial palace depends on those higher gods. And now they have not agreed to let us in. In any case, those higher gods have their eyes on Lin Ling. They will definitely attack Lin Ling. If we attack first, we can obtain a favor from them. The gods whispered to each other. Although Lin Ling was very frightening, it was more obvious that the higher gods were even more frightening. No matter how strong Lin Ling was, in the face of a higher god, any strength he had would be like paper. Killing 4 gods in a row and establishing your might is what you want to do. However, to kill 4 gods in a row in front of us, you are looking down on us too much. Chapter 47-49. Emperor's Song. Looking at the god, everyone's eyes lit up, but there was also a strong sense of awe. North of the Netherworld, one of the 10 kings of hell. There were many kings of hell in the Netherworld, and they were divided into 4 directions. Being one of the 10 kings of hell in the north of the Netherworld was proof of his strength. Lei Gong Lin Ling, right? The ancient book of life and death appeared in his hand. He looked at it calmly and then frowned. Good, I didn't expect you to be an enemy of the Netherworld. Not only did you kill people of the Netherworld, you even dared to fight against the god of the Netherworld. Oh right, you once saved a girl named Ning Qingxin and disrupted the order of the Netherworld. After looking up, Emperor Song's expression became more ferocious. A god of the Netherworld? Lin Ling looked at him with a cold smile. However, the opponent was a superior god, and his strength was not to be underestimated. No matter what, you have violated the law of the Netherworld. Since I met you today, I will represent the Netherworld to suppress you. Emperor Song said coldly. Haha. Lin Ling laughed without fear. That Kai Hu Taoist was stupid, and so was the god of war. But you, a god of the Netherworld, are also stupid. Haven't you thought about why I, Lin Ling, dared to come here? Shameless boasting. Emperor Song roared in anger. Terrifying divine energy was being emitted from his body, and the power of the steps of the gods also burst out. Emperor Song, kill him. The surrounding gods cheered as if they had found their backbone. Bang. However, Lin Ling disappeared in an instant, leaving behind the flaming steps in the sky. This was the speed of the Quafu's sun-chasing boots. Swoosh. With a slash of the sword, the god who laughed the loudest was killed. This slash caused another wave. It was as if Lin Ling wanted to kill all the gods here. You're crazy. After the gods reacted, they were all furious. The deaths of Kai Hu Taoist and the god of war were pardonable. After all, they took the initiative to fight Lin Ling, but they didn't attack. I'm crazy. Don't think that I don't know that you guys have been plotting against me for a long time. It's just that you guys didn't have the guts to do so. Lin Ling's killing intent gushed out, tyrannical singing sword steps of killing erupted, fusing into the gray robe, causing his strength to become even more ferocious. Rumble! He slashed out with his sword, and the sea of blood churned as he reaped the lives of several gods with a single slash. Sir, be careful. On the Spirit Nation's side, the gods were shocked. Lord Ning even stood in front of the Spirit Nation's great god, afraid that Lin Ling would take this opportunity to kill him. He won't kill me for now because he knows that I can't be killed. The great god of Spirit Nation pushed Lord Ning away and stared coldly at Lin Ling. Although he knew that Lin Ling would not kill him, witnessing Lin Ling battling a group of deities, he also felt very upset in his heart. Because even he didn't have such a heroic act. Sir, let me help you. At this moment, Saint Guy and the others also joined the fray, fighting the gods with all their might. Under Lin Ling's lead, a large number of gods fell here. These gods were from the Tao realm, and there were also those from the primal chaos realm. They never imagined that they would not die in the 8 gods' celestial palace, but in the hands of a junior named Lin Ling. Most importantly, they came here for the 8 gods' celestial palace, but before they could even see it, they had fallen here. Lei Gong Lin Ling, you are infuriating me. Emperor Songdi didn't expect Lin Ling to be so arrogant. He killed without hesitation, as though he didn't fear a high god at all. This was something that he couldn't understand. He really couldn't understand it. However, watching Lin Ling slaughter mid-gods, Emperor Songdi was secretly shocked because he didn't expect Lei Gong Lin Ling to be so powerful. It was as though no mid-god was his match. This made him somewhat puzzled. Logically speaking, no matter how powerful a mid-stage mid-god was, he could kill a late-stage mid-god, but he couldn't kill more than that. Could it be that this Lin Ling was hiding some secret? How could he know that Lin Ling had 7 dantians in his body, and he alone was equivalent to 7 mid-stage mid-gods? Moreover, he was the strongest mid-stage mid-god. Do you see that? You think that with a high god you will be safe? But this Emperor Songdi has been watching and doesn't care about whether you live or die. Perhaps you are wondering why Emperor Songdi isn't helping. I'll let you know the reason. The reason is simple. Emperor Songdi wants to see my strength through you. Lin Ling said with a hearty laugh after crushing the head of a late-stage mid-god. His voice caused the gods' hearts to tremble. They quietly took a step back. They weren't fools, and by now, they had realized that something was amiss. It seemed like Emperor Songdi wasn't planning to help at all. What a sharp tongue. But you are right. I was curious about what you are relying on. But now, I am no longer curious because I have seen through you. At this moment, Emperor Songdi said coldly, now, be prepared to receive my wrath. Although Lin Ling's strength was strange, the fact that he was a mid-stage mid-god was something that could never be changed. No matter how heaven-defying his strength was, there was a limit to it. A brush appeared in his hand, and he lightly drew. It seemed like a simple movement, but it carried the charm of a god. This was the step of a god. This stroke seemed to have taken away all of Lin Ling's vitality. Unstoppable, he would die without a doubt. My lord, be careful. Saint Yi had the Donghuang bell, so he immediately realized how terrifying that stroke was. What's the use of being careful? Ha! No matter how cautious you are still no match for a high god. Emperor Songdi laughed disdainfully. He was not afraid of Lin Ling at all. At this moment, Lin Ling also realized how terrifying that stroke was. It was like the laws of the universe. However, Lin Ling dared to show his might earlier. How could it be so simple? He naturally had his own trump card. In his hand, the seedling that Guangqingzi had given him appeared. Lin Ling looked at it with a cherished look, then threw it out. Lin Ling didn't know how powerful this seedling was, but he believed in Guangqingzi. Master Guangqing had once told him that the 3 sprouts could cause fatal injuries even to a superior god. And this was the reason why Lin Ling dared to show his might here. The moment the seedling appeared, the eyes of the gods flashed, but they shook their heads. They were all knowledgeable and knew the power of some powerful treasures. But when those treasures appeared, the heavens and earth would change color, and the universe would tremble. However, that seedling was very ordinary. It didn't look like a treasure, but more like a cultivation item. Could it be that Lin Ling wanted to rely on this seedling to save his life? What a joke! Didn't he see that he was the king of hell? When the king of hell decided life and death, all treasures were useless. Chapter 4750. What's going on? King Songdi's face changed greatly. Finally, he sensed the most terrifying power of the steps of the gods from that seedling. Moreover, the steps of God contain the most ancient power of virtue. It was as if the power of virtue was unparalleled. It was as if the power that was fighting against Emperor Song was the people of countless eras. One had to know that the seedling had nurtured the people of countless eras. Its virtue was immeasurable, and it had gathered countless incense sticks. One incense stick might not be of much help, but tens of billions, hundreds of billions, or even trillions of incense sticks were terrifying. Shwa. The ordinary-looking seedling had unparalleled power. Not only did it sweep away the netherworld, but it also swept away Emperor Song. Get lost! Emperor Song roared angrily. He activated his divine power and the steps of God. However, he could not block the power of the seedling. The seedling waved gently, and any means were swept away. Lin Ling could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. The surrounding gods also sucked in a breath of cold air. Such a powerful seedling was too terrifying. A gentle wave of energy came and wrapped around Emperor Song. No matter how he stirred up the power of heaven and earth, it was useless. What is this? Emperor Song's voice carried a hint of anxiety. However, no matter how he rolled, he could not break free from the seedling's entanglement. Moreover, the mysterious and gentle power was constantly sweeping away all the power in his body. At this moment, his divine power was also slowly dissipating, absorbed by the seedling. Could it be the ancestral seedling? I think so. Only the ancestral seedling with unparalleled power could have such power. How did this little god obtain such a treasure? The surrounding gods were discussing spiritedly. Gates of the netherworld. Emperor Song was completely panicking at this moment. He erupted with his trump card. A bronze gate slowly appeared above his head and quietly opened. It was as if it was going to suck in everything and bring Emperor Song away from this void. The netherworld was the world of the god of the underworld. After entering, the god of the underworld could also help. You want to leave? Lin Ling's eyes turned cold. He did not stop and threw out another seedling. He was determined to kill Emperor Song today and establish supreme authority in the 9 prefectures. But Emperor Songdi's eyes turned red when he saw the seedlings floating towards him. It was as if he had encountered the greatest crisis of his life. The second seedling arrived and wrapped itself around King Songdi's body. King Songdi's voice gradually became softer and softer. Finally, he was completely absorbed. On the other hand, 2 golden seedlings floated in the air, growing bigger and bigger as time passed. Next, it sank into the depths of the void. It seemed like it would sink into the depths of the void and gradually disappear. Who wouldn't want to take such a precious treasure for themselves? However, such a precious treasure was not something that they could control. Therefore, the gods were only envious, but they did not dare to act rashly. Even Lin Ling didn't dare to take back the 2 seedlings. His heart ached. He reckoned that the 2 seedlings were going to disappear from the peak of the universe. However, although he had used up 2 seedlings, he had at least established his authority in the void of the 9 prefectures. To Lin Ling, this was all worth it. This was Lin Ling's territory. No matter who it was, anyone who dared to behave atrociously and provoke Lin Ling would have to pay the price. A high god is also dead. The gods looked at Lin Ling solemnly. Fear appeared in the eyes of the great god of Spirit Nation. At this point, they didn't dare to speak. Your Excellency, you have the qualifications to enter the 8 gods' celestial palace. At the same time, an old voice floated out from the huge hole. It seemed that Lin Ling's killing of Emperor Song had gained the recognition of the high god in the hole, Lin Ling. Following that, the hole spewed out more soil. It seemed like it was continuing to excavate the 8 gods' celestial palace. Lin Ling, Saint Yi, and the others landed on the continent and sat down cross-legged. Lord Ning, Taoist Duo Bao, great gods of Spirit Nation, long time no see. After sitting down, Lin Ling looked at the great gods of Spirit Nation and said, Lin Ling, long time no see. Where did you go in the Tao realm? Your strength has increased so much. Taoist Duo Bao drank his wine and looked at Lin Ling with a smile. He and Lin Ling could be considered old acquaintances. In fact, from the first time he saw Lin Ling, he knew that this kid was incredible. And the truth didn't surprise him. Lin Ling's current strength was probably even stronger than the great gods of Spirit Nation. Of course, the great gods of Spirit Nation were mature hosts of the world will and had reached the 3rd generation. If they were to fight, their strength wouldn't be weak. Where did you guys go in the Tao realm? I haven't seen you guys in a long time. Lin Ling smiled as though he was talking to a friend. Taoist Duo Bao was a host of the world will, and so was the great gods of Spirit Nation. He guessed that these people were in another place in the Tao realm and had obtained great opportunities. Tao Pagoda. This time, Taoist Duo Bao didn't speak. Instead, the great god of Spirit Nation spoke. At the same time, he stared at Lin Ling with a complicated look in his eyes. To be honest, although he and Lin Ling seemed to be enemies, they weren't enemies. In fact, Lin Ling had spoiled his plans many times. Even if they were enemies, he hated Lin Ling more. But in his heart, he didn't hate Lin Ling. Why was that? Even he didn't know. Dao Pagoda. Lin Ling's eyes flickered. The Yellow Emperor had said that if he wanted to go to the Dao Pagoda, he would have to go through a fog-like place. He didn't expect Taoist Duobao and the others to go to the Dao Pagoda first. This was also the reason why Lin Ling hadn't attacked the great gods of Spirit Nation even though his strength had increased greatly. He had a feeling that the great gods of Spirit Nation and Taoist Duobao were hiding their trump cards. It won't be long before you enter. The great god of Spirit Nation said again. The Dao Pagoda gathers the strongest gods of several eras. Going there means standing at the peak of your era. You can even enter the Chaos Realm. Lin Ling, I know you want to dominate this universe and stand at the peak of your era. So, the Dao Pagoda is a place you must enter. And the Chaos Realm is the gathering place of the strongest ancient gods. If you go there, you'll reach the end. You know what I mean. Taoist Duobao also smiled. Lin Ling's eyes flickered. Reach the end. Of course, he knew what it meant. To be honest, since Lin Ling had grown to this point, there seemed to be something pushing him forward. It was as if it was fate, but also as if it was the path he had to walk. Therefore, he was also curious as to why those ancient giant gods had decided on the path of his destiny for him. Moreover, little Kunlun was also in the Chaos Realm. Lin Ling also wanted to know how it was doing. I'll go. Lin Ling nodded. Don't underestimate the Dao Pagoda. With our strength, we're the lowest existences in the Dao Pagoda. As for you, you'll probably be better, but not by much. The great god of Spirit Nation suddenly said. Thank you for the reminder, but aren't we enemies? Why are you reminding me? Lin Ling said with a faint smile. Chapter 4751. That's right. Taoist Duobao seemed to know something as he nodded with a smile. You should know that the world's will hosts can devour each other. However, there are certain conditions for doing so. Therefore, in addition to facing the various gods, we also have to face the powerful world's will hosts. Right now, there aren't many gods who know that we are the world's will hosts. No wonder you dare to appear here so openly. Lin Ling suddenly understood, but he was still thinking about Taoist Duobao's words. The world's will hosts could devour each other. This meant that the Spirit Nation's great god and Taoist Duobao had also sensed danger. And who could devour them? Suddenly, Lin Ling's eyes lit up. The god behind the 3 divine gates of White Mountain. However, what did the Spirit Nation's great god mean? Maybe we will be friends in the future. Friends? Lin Ling shook his head. He was not too sure about this. I'm not late. At this time, many gods arrived from afar. These gods had extraordinary auras and were extremely powerful. The weakest was a late-stage mid-god. Among them, there were even 3 superior gods. Night God. Emperor Yao's long-term governor. That's someone from the Burning Heart Divine Gate. The gods present quietly flashed their eyes. They came from the chaotic realm, but these people in front of them came from the Dao realm, and even the Dao Tower of the Dao realm. Those who could enter the Dao Tower were very powerful, more powerful than many gods in the chaotic realm. Yo, Spirit Nation's great god. Suddenly, a young man looked at the Spirit Nation's great god and said, this person came from the Burning Heart Divine Gate and knew the origin of the Spirit Nation's great god. However, he did not announce it. It's you. The world's not a demon. The Spirit Nation's great god obviously knew the young man and his face turned cold. I knew you would come. Right, aren't there some people in this universe who are against us? Do you know who they are? The young man glanced and smiled. They didn't come. However, the Spirit Nation's great god shook his head coldly. This surprised Lin Ling because he was the one opposing the 3 divine gates. However, the great god of Spirit Kingdom didn't mention him. The eyes of the other gods flickered. They also knew about Lin Ling and the others. Previously, Lin Ling and the others had killed a large number of gods, showing off the might of this universe. However, they didn't interrupt because they didn't know if these gods were friends or foes. That's a bit of a pity, because on this trip, I'm also going to get rid of those people. But it doesn't matter. They're just some small gods. I can kill them at any time. The young man called Yi Bumo smiled and shook his head. He glanced at Lin Ling and Xingyi, then ignored them. Lin Ling also glanced at him quietly. He could sense that this person was even stronger than King Songdi. And now Lin Ling only had one seedling left. Clearly, it was not enough to kill Yi Bumo. As for his trump card, the 3 extremes of the universe break and his 6,000 doppelgangers, it would probably be very difficult to kill Knight Bumo. He would only be able to remain undefeated. It seemed that the Dao Pagoda was indeed full of experts. Most importantly, Yi Bumo was only one of them. There was also the Night God and another superior god. They were also very strong. Moreover, one of them came from Emperor Yao's tomb. If he knew that Lin Ling was Lin Ling, he would probably attack immediately. Rumble. At this moment, the earth shook and the huge ancient tree began to sway. Boom. Next, 8 rays of divine light rushed out of the huge hole and destroyed everything. The huge ancient tree began to wither. Then, several figures rushed out of the hole in a sorry state. They were the superior gods who had been digging. After they rushed out, their faces were full of fear. Even with their strength, if they had been one step slower, they would have been killed by the 8 rays of divine light. If even they were in such a state, there was no need to mention the other gods. What terrifying power, giant ghost! Lin Ling was also deeply afraid. Then he looked at the giant ghost. However, he found that the giant ghost was looking at the 8 rays of divine light seriously. Its eyes were flickering, as if it had awakened some memories. Seeing this, Lin Ling did not interrupt the giant ghost. His gaze returned to the 8 rays of divine light. The divine light gradually dimmed. Then, an ancient palace slowly rose. 8 rays of light flickered, illuminating the entire universe. The 8 gods' celestial palace had descended once again. 8 gods, the palace of the 8 gods from back then has finally been found. I remember that the 8 gods were incomparably famous gods in the primordial era. I heard that the palace he left behind contains the strongest secrets in the entire universe. Not only are there countless treasures, but it also has the final 2 world will hosts. The gods licked their lips in excitement. Their origins were varied, but they all had the same goal, and that was to find the final 2 world wills host bodies. Can we go in now? Then, a god saw the door open and could not help but ask in anticipation. Spirit Nation's great god. Yi Bumo also looked at the Spirit Nation's great god. The latter took out a key and nodded. With the key in hand, the Spirit Nation's great god walked toward the door. Many of the gods present had keys, so they also strode toward the door. Let's go. Lin Ling also nodded at St. Guy and the others. Lin Ling also had a key, and it was a unique key. Therefore, he did not take it out immediately. Instead, he followed the crowd. The door opened, and the crowd entered one after another. A vast white space appeared in front of them, and a powerful force assaulted them like a gust of wind. Ugh. Screams of pain could be heard from behind him. Several lesser gods seemed to have melted at this moment. It was obvious that a lower god's strength was not enough to enter the 8th level of the 8 gods' heavenly palace. However, most of the gods present were powerful, so they did not even look at the dead gods and continued forward. The final destination was a land of ruins. Ancient stone pillars stood tall all around, blocking the path. It seemed that if they wanted to reach the 8th level, they would have to depend on this land of ruins. At this moment, everyone was puzzled. Those who had keys frowned and looked at the keys in their hands. Lord Lin Ling, what's going on? White Water Pure Maiden asked curiously. This was her first time entering the 8 gods' heavenly palace, so she was curious. The 8 gods' heavenly palace is a world of its own. It's hard to say what's inside. Lin Ling shook his head. He had been to many levels of the 8 gods' heavenly palace. There was the Wildland, the Sea World, and the Flame World. He really did not know what was inside the 8th level. Suddenly, he looked at the key in his hand and saw that words had appeared on it. Lin Ling looked carefully and realized that if he wanted to enter the 8th level, the only thing he could do now was to wait. Wait. At the same time, Taoist Duobao said, "We only need to wait for a moment. The teleportation circle to the 8th level will open." I see. Everyone nodded. They could afford to wait. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.